meeting. Okay. Welcome, friends. This is our meeting for February 12th, 2025. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and under the rules of procedure for our body, 2.3, we need to select a presiding officer. Mr. Martinez.
Yeah, I'd like to motion to make Councilmember Reese the presiding officer until Vice Mayor may arrive.
Thank you so much. And a second from Ms. Anderson. Any other questions at this time? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Ebert, I know you're joining us.
Did you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yes, aye.
Thank you so much. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. And again, friends, welcome to this meeting's, this month's first meeting. We're on Valentine's Eve, I think. And we'll start off with our normal course of business, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask David Stipich. Where are you, Mr. Stipich? Let's have you do that for us. Thank you, David. You're going to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Stipich, thank you so much for being here. I want to recognize the members of our Reno Engaged Leadership Institute who are here today. These are city employees who have elected to spend some time learning about the city's operational side, oftentimes stepping out of their unique roles to just get a broader examination of what the city of Reno does. And man, are we happy to see all of you. I know that each of you plays a critical role and function in the various departments in which you operate, but knowing how other departments operate is really important. Plus, it helps you to knit yourselves together across different engaged areas and figure out how we can get things done better. So thank you for being here. Super important program, and we're honored that you would commit your time to it. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to turn my attention now, Madam Clerk, to a roll call and ask you to do so.
Thank you, Councilmember Reese. We're calling roll for Wednesday, February 12th, Reno City Council meeting. Vice Mayor Taylor, absent at this time. Councilmember Dorr.
Here.
Martinez.
Here.
Ebert.
Present.
Reese.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Sheevy, absent at this time. Councilmember Reese, you do have a quorum of the Reno City Council.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to item A3, public comment. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. A3, our first item today is public comment. Members of the public may hear, observe, and provide public comment by virtually registering through the following link, which can be found on reno.gov/meetings, https://reno.gov/Reno/Reno/COUNCIL02-12. It should be noted for those in the audience that comments are to be addressed to the mayor and council as a whole. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the council's agenda. Council may not take action upon any matter not agendized on today's agenda. When you're called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name, and you will be afforded 3 minutes. For those participating in chambers, in accordance with Council Rules 6.3.11, while in this room, please be respectful. Disruptive behavior from audience members like clapping, yelling, whistling, etc., which impede the meeting may result in a warning issued by the presiding officer. If this behavior continues, you may be removed from chambers. If you're an attendee in the Zoom meeting and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand at this time. Our first public commenter today is Mark Markell, followed by Terry Brooks.
Good morning, acting mayor and manager and the council members, city council members. And my name is Mark Markell, and I'm a concerned Reno resident. And, back in '89, I was involved in a motor vehicle crash and a drunk driving motor vehicle crash. And we rolled 8 times, and I was ejected, and the car landed on my head. Now I'm telling you this, people, so you don't go through the same stuff I've been through. I I had the card land on my head. I'm not out there. I'm just here to show you people and warning people what can happen if you get in the car with a drunk driver. I was the passenger, and I think I already said that. But anyway, I just wanted to remind people and show people and warn people not to ride with drunk drivers. Take a taxi or a bus or something. Just don't ride with drunks. Thank you.
Mark.
Terry Brooks, followed by Stephen White.
Good morning, it's me, Terry Brooks again, and today I'd like to share with you some of my thoughts on employment and what seniors have to go through. The older I get, the more I remember so many different jobs that I've had. Some of those jobs were not so good, some of them were not so bad. I've learned that in most cases, the longer someone has the same job, the more they develop a system of working and they get a lot better at that job. And after developing such a system of doing one job, then they learn to develop such a system if and when they start another job. So the longer someone works at whatever jobs they've had, the more they learn how to efficiently work at whatever jobs they've had. And the longer they work somewhere, then the more they get paid and the more they'll get from retirement benefits or from investments that they've made. I've had a lot of jobs. Through time my work would vary, from a clay mine to a steel plant and eventually to a university library. But sometimes as we get older, it's harder to do our job when we're not as strong as we were when we started that job. That's why I started with a stand-up hard work job and gradually evolved to a sit-down library job. When I was young, I didn't have a problem with swinging picks, shovels, or hammers all day. When I got older, I enjoyed sitting down and staring at a computer all day. Each job that I ever had was usually better than the one before, so I learned to appreciate each job I had even more. As people grow older in years, they develop a reputation for doing a really good job at work and advancing to a new occupation. And older people are also known for showing up at work on time. So that makes me feel even better as I'm writing this rhyme. I would like to thank you all for listening to me today, and I look forward to coming back and showing up on time that day. Thank you.
Stephen White, followed by Sam Gettle.
Good morning, folks. Stephen White, artist advocate. What's the difference between a commercial vendor and an artist? Anybody know? It's really very simple. You know, a commercial vendor is subject to licenses and permits and fees and an outright ban on selling public property. But a First Amendment protected fine artist is not subject to licenses or permits or fees. So what's the difference between the two? They're both selling their artwork, right? The difference is that a fine artist, as defined by the Ninth Circuit Court, painting, drawing, sculpture, photography, printed self-expression, engraving, stained glass windows, but only as art for art's sake, not as a functional window, music, theater, dance, and film, are all forms of self-expression that have no other purpose than to be expressive. Therefore, they rise to the full level of protection by the First Amendment. What's interesting to me is that all across the United States over the last 40 years, city governments and mainly city attorneys and even state attorneys have not recognized the fact that it's absolutely well settled by the United States Supreme Court that the sale of First Amendment protected material is also protected by the First Amendment. And therefore, in the ruling that I won against in the Ninth Circuit against the city of Sparks, second sentence of that ruling, we hold that an artist's sale of his original artwork constitutes speech protected by the First Amendment. It's real important for city governments to understand that difference, because on the one hand, you can license commercial vendors. On the other hand, An artist is fully protected under the First Amendment when they're selling their artwork for profit on public forums. Now, the city attorney will tell you that city government can have time, place, and manner restrictions on First Amendment protected speech, and this is true. However, what they fail to tell you is that those restrictions must be narrowly tailored to address a specific governmental need. They must be equally applied to all speakers. They must provide alternative venues. And, there's another one, I forget what it is, but anyway, there's a lot of restrictions as to what you can place on First Amendment protected speech. How this all came about was when I started as an artist 53 years ago, fine artists did fine art shows. Crafters did craft shows, and buyer seller vendors went to flea markets. But when the festival industry started, they joined them all together, and they threw fine artists into this commercial mix with all these commercial vendors. And suddenly city governments all over the country decided that artists were no different than a commercial vendor, and basically ran artists off of public property all over America. I witnessed this firsthand in my life. I spent 40 years on the road in an RV, literally painting my way around America, doing oil paintings. So I'm trying to explain this to you so you'll have a better understanding of it. Thank you very much for your time, and good on you.
Thank you so much.
Sam Gettle, followed by Dale Curiozzi.
Hi, my name is Sam Gettle. I'm here to honor some of the Reno folks, employees in the code enforcement. I wanted to thank Ashley, Frank Perez, and Russell Hayes for curing a problem that we've had for 14 years, and the leadership was wonderful. We had a hellacious week during Christmas and New Year's, and they solved it. And thank you very much, because a lot of times people don't say nice things, it's always complaints.
Thank you so much, sir.
Dale Curiozzi, followed by David Shakar.
Good morning, and we're not here to complain either. We're here to thank you from the Nevada Peer Support Network. I'm Charlie Tabano and Dale Curiozzi. We're both retired first responders, as everyone within our organization. We're here to thank you for all of your support over the last year or so, from your discretionary funds to the funds that you approved for the opiate settlement for us. We've already working on plans to improve our outreach for first responders, substance abuse. Currently, we have 2 AA for first responder classes that go on at our Resiliency Center in Reno, and we want to improve that and make it open up to more people and really do some more outreach. And again, thank you for that. Back in when the Davis fire occurred, one of the fire chiefs came up to me, actually he was from Reno, and said, "Hey, Charlie, you guys have been out here for a long time with your firefighter incident support and rehab unit, taking care of us, feeding us." He says, "What happens if we get a fire in town, a structure fire? What do you guys do?" And I said, "We know, we're working on that." So thanks to the Reno Fire Chief and his staff, we were offered and used ambulance that they were going to give off to auction. So hopefully we'll be able to take possession of that really soon, because that's going to be our truck that if we do get to incidents that we can respond to each one. And because we have been committed now to, after last year, we had 3 of these wildland incidents where we were out there for quite a few days. So we just want to serve our first responders. Again, we are all have been in that boat. I know Dale's retired from Reno Fire as a captain, many years working there, and also a veteran. And we've all been there where it's freezing cold, and you come out, and it's nice to have somebody hand you a cup of coffee, especially from someone who knows what you've been doing and what you've experienced. And the same in the summertime, cool you down, give you something, sit down, relax with us, and we get it. So that's all we want. We wanted to, again, thank you so much, and hopefully our relationship with the city will grow as time goes on, because we're not getting any slower out there, are we? All right, thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you for the work you do.
Thank you.
David Shakar, followed by James Matthews.
Good morning. My name is David Shakar. I'm an independent artist. I put down here this picture to show you what art looks like in downtown Reno. And art became legal here in Reno in April 2014 under Mayor Hillary Sheevy with the assistance of Bob Cashell. And this big burly mountain man here named Steve White, he was a winning plaintiff in that landmark of civil rights of artists case, White versus City of Sparks, from the Ninth Circuit, 2007. The citation is 500 Federal 3rd, 953. And the important thing about that, what Steve said, is that art is protected by the First Amendment. That just because you sell your work on the public forum does not mean that you need a license or permit. But I wanted to talk about another thing about the public forum. Last weekend, a relative came to visit me, and she is ambulatory and wanted to walk around the beautiful downtown area. And she got tired after a while. We're looking for a bench to sit down. There is a dearth of benches in downtown Reno, and that's problematic because when tourists come here, they come here in cars and buses, and they're walking around from one casino to another, and they get a little bit tired and they want to sit down. It was really difficult to find a bench, and we couldn't find one. So finally, we had to go in one of the casinos, and not that there's anything wrong with that. We've got great restaurants and things like that, but you shouldn't have to go into a casino to sit down. So I'd like to request the city of Reno to consider allocating some of the funds that you have, the discretionary or extra funds, to put some public benches in downtown Reno. I have a suggestion that might be helpful, and what that could be is certainly local businesses could sponsor that. They could have a sign on their bunch, sponsored by ABC company or whatever. So I'd like you to please consider that about the viability and efficacy of putting benches in downtown Reno so tourists could sit down, so people could enjoy the city just a little bit more. Thank you.
James Matthews, followed by Jerry Mifsud.
Madam Clerk, please note that the mayor is here.
Good morning. So yeah, I'm here to address the issue about the issues I'm having with the Reno Police Department. There is a run every nigga out organization here, just so you know. Okay, there is a division in the police department where they harass black people and they torture them and do all kinds of weird stuff to get them out the city. And I've been trying to get help for the past 2 years about the issue, and nobody will help me. And now I'm here to talk to you guys to see what's going on.
Mr. Matthews, they can't respond.
Oh, they can't?
No.
Oh, well, who do I talk to then? Who? James Matthews? Yes. Okay. Tristan has my information. I'm going to have someone meet right now. Thank you. All right.
Jerry Mifsud, followed by Robin Palmer via Zoom.
Glad you could make it. My name is Jerry Mifsud, a.k.a. Jerry the Pizza Man. Okay. You folks will not stop insulting me. One of you called me up on the phone and called me a racist, and I was homophobic. I'll give that person an opportunity to apologize to me now. You're a coward, a fat coward.
Mr.
You got
Misfed.
this job
Mr.
because
Misfed.
of racism.
Mr.
A
Misfed.
Mexican hired you, appointed you.
Madam Clerk, can you turn off the
You might be
microphone,
here.
please?
10:30.
Jerry, remember, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
Anyway, why, he's paid off. This guy is sick. He's got a business that it's a health. And you let him. I say, you know, I said that to you.
Thank you, Jerry. Remember, Walt Disney, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Okay, have a great day. All right, Madam Clerk, next.
Hey,
Robin,
I saw her first.
Robin Palmer via Zoom, followed by Nancy Ann Leader. Robin, if you would unmute, state your name for the record, and begin speaking.
Am I on?
You are. Thank you.
Good morning, Council. I'm Robin Palmer, climate and community advocate. The administrative decision regarding data centers that is now Reno Municipal Code gives little guidance to your Planning Commission in reviewing data center permits. The administrative decision does not address data center energy use, water consumption, environmental impacts on our community. Consequently, the Planning Commission passed a resolution last week recommending that Reno City Council temporarily pause new data center permits. I support Reno City Council adopting a pause on data centers until permitting requirements considering community environmental impacts can be thoroughly flushed out. Thank you for allowing me to comment.
Nancy Ann Leader.
Leader, and I'm actually in agreement with what Robin Palmer just testified about. I was at the Planning Commission meeting last week, and I read the newspaper story on the front page. I think it was yesterday's paper. Mr. Velto did take an issue with the Planning Commission, but his issue was basically, as I understand from what he said, as I was sitting there listening, was the word recommendation. He just felt that the Planning Commission shouldn't make any recommendation to the City Council, but that it should merely ask for some additional points. And I agree with those additional points. I was concerned with the expansion of the word warehouse, because traditionally a warehouse is a place where physical objects are put in and then taken out. So I looked around at other statutes, and I found a series of statutes in Nevada revised statutes that talk about warehouses. And they're all addressing physical objects going in and coming out. And some of them are discussing semi-trucks taking the items in and bringing the items out. And they're requiring things like noise abatement, how the trucks are handled. And that's the sense in which it would be very helpful to the Planning Commission and to the rest of the city residents for the council to have an ordinance that defines data centers, maybe as a data center and not as a warehouse, a particular kind of a warehouse maybe. But I'm concerned about water in particular. I live in Ward 4. I'm administrator of an estate where the property, the main property of the estate, was in the path of the Davis fire. So I watched how the Davis fire was coming up. It luckily, thank goodness, thank you to firefighters, we were not injured. But it's very scary. And then here, Southern California didn't have water available. I'm concerned with that. Also, we apparently have a real housing shortage here in Reno, and the data center apparently uses the same amount as 30 to 40,000 houses. So by putting one data center in, we don't put in 30 to 40,000 houses. And perhaps we should address that before approving any more.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Nancy.
Thank
Have
you.
a great morning.
Am I hearing New York or Boston? I feel like I'm, oh, okay, there you go. I knew it wasn't a Reno accent.
Madam Mayor, with that, we have no additional public comment. For the record, we did receive 17 comments, which were general in nature and not directly associated with an agenda item prior to 4 p.m. yesterday, February 11th. These comments were written correspondence received via our Reno.gov online public comment form or by emails to our office. Copies of these have been distributed to the Reno City Council and are available to the public on reno.gov/meetings. 3 letters of support, 5 letters of opposition, and 9 letters of concern. With that, we have no additional public comment, and we're moving on to item A4, approval of the agenda.
Okay, thank you so much. At this time, I'm actually going to hand it over to City Manager Jackie Bryant for updates.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The plan today is to hear our consent agenda and any pulled items, and then immediately after that, we will hear item D, Delta 3, which is a guest presentation from the Flood Authority. Then we will move to item D, Delta 1, which is an informational overview of the Reimagine Reno Master Plan. Following that, we will hear item C1. This afternoon, no earlier than 2 p.m., we will hear item D2, which is another guest presentation with Judge Birchie from the Reno Justice Court. Then we will follow up with our ordinance adoptions, F1, 2, and 3, and we will finish the appointment with items G1 through G7. Following that, we will open the RDA.
Great.
Thank you.
Manager Bryant, I have something to add real quick.
Go ahead.
I just noticed in the agenda last night on the redevelopment portion, there's an error with some information with the date of the resolution that we need to sign off on. It shows that Councilmember Breckus was a nay on the November 20th vote, but she was no longer on council at that time, so I don't know if that matters.
We'll go ahead and address that during a break and make sure the attorneys can weigh in, and then we'll make any corrections that are necessary before we open the RDA.
Great.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'll move to approve the agenda.
All right, so I have a motion to approve. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, approval of the minutes, A5. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we're going to head into consent. Madam Clerk, do you have any public comment?
Madam Mayor, we do not have any public comment registered to speak. For the record, we did receive one letter of correspondence in support of an item, and that has been distributed to Reno City Council.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, at this time, I'm going to start to my right. Councilwoman Anderson, do you have anything you want to pull off the consent agenda? Councilman Martinez? No? Councilman Reese?
Nothing, Madam Mayor.
Councilwoman Dewar?
No.
Councilwoman Ebert?
Yeah, I'd like to pull B9, B10, B11, B12, B13, B15, and B17. And I think B15 and 17 look like they could probably be pulled at the same time.
Okay, can you just give me those again?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
B9,
B10,
B10, B11, B13, B15, and 17.
15, 17.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And these should be quick. I don't.
Okay,
have a
no,
lot of
no,
stuff.
don't worry about it. It's all good. With that being said, we did pull B11. That's the one that I wanted to pull as well. Okay, with that being said, can I have a motion to approve all other agenda items?
So moved.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're going to head into item B9. And this is the Reno Police Department. Do we have anyone here? Would you like to get up and speak on it?
No, no one's here?
He's like, oh no, she's calling on me.
Can we
All
trail
right.
the item, Madam Mayor?
Okay, we'll come
just
back
trail
to
the
that.
item?
All right,
Great.
thanks so much. We're going to come back to that, Councilwoman Ebert. Okay, B10.
Same thing.
Same
And then
thing?
B11. Can we
B11.
jump
Oh,
to B11
that's the
maybe?
one. Yes, let's hear about B11. Do we not have anyone from fire or police? Okay, all right, B13.
Yeah, B13.
Well, you're here. Good to see you.
You too. I'm Matt Taylor, Assistant Finance Director for the City of Reno. B13 is a request to transfer $1.5 million out of the Surplus and Deficiency Fund into the General Fund. These funds have been accumulated over many years, and they're payments from special assessment districts that are in excess over what has been approved or what has been assessed. And after the reconciliation process at a special assessment district has been closed out and property owners have been refunded their payments that they've overpaid, any excess payments the city gets to keep and put into this excess deficiency account to offset future shortages out of special assessment districts. And under NRS, we're allowed to pull out any amount over the 10% of outstanding special assessment districts and put it into the general fund.
Okay, so are these the funds that we're going to be discussing for redevelopment funds, or how is that separate?
These are not for redevelopment funds. We're planning on using these funds to offset shortages in this next budget cycle.
So these are from a special assessment area, you said?
They're from special assessment districts that have been over the past multiple decades.
Oh,
that have been
okay,
accumulated.
okay. So is this a one-time deal, or is this kind of getting like closed down after this kind of true up?
This is a one-time deal that we can take, and then as long as we have special assessment districts ongoing, any excess could go back into the fund, but we have to do this calculation every year. So
Okay.
once we do it this year, we won't be able to do it again for a while.
Yeah, because it'll take a while for
Yes.
funds to accumulate. Okay, and it just so happens to be, what was the amount again? Just 150?
1.5
Yeah,
million.
$1.5 million,
Yes.
like exactly?
It's a little bit over 1.5, but we're leaving the excess in the fund
Okay,
to offset
okay.
in case there's shortages.
Great, and it just goes into the general fund?
Correct.
Okay, and this isn't something that we would normally use for any other fund, like a contingency fund or any legal
No,
fund or anything?
the funds that are in there can be used to offset if there's shortages, if there's special assessments that haven't made their payments, These funds would be used to offset those, but then there's the excess over the top that we're allowed to take. And it's still leaving about $300,000 in the fund to offset shortages in the future.
Yeah, but these funds, like, maybe this has never happened before, but does it have to go into the general fund?
It does,
Hold on one second. Mayor, sorry, City Manager Bryant. I know she wanted to weigh in.
Yeah, Councilmember
Okay.
Ebert, Jackie Bryant for the record. And what we will be doing is bringing this amount back to you as part of the budget process and figuring out how to deal with the deficit for FY26. So basically what we're going to say is that we have cured some of the deficit with a proposed $1.5 million transfer from the SAD. It just takes a two-step process. So this is the first stop in the process, and we'll be back during the budget cycle. But we're not doing anything else with this money because we need to come back and put this in order to cover the deficit
Allocate
for
it to
FY26.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I feel like, I think what you were trying to say is that, would this money go to some specific area? I feel like that's what.
And no, only at council's direction would it go anywhere. It's not an enterprise fund like the Building Enterprise Fund or the RDA.
Yeah.
This money is going into the general fund. We're going to siphon it off, not let anybody spend it. We're going to come back to you in March and talk about using it to offset the deficit in FY26.
Okay, and there's no, like, requirements on it. I know that there's some funds that, like, we have
Correct.
to use on sewer, we have to use, it doesn't have to go to a specific use.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I think that's it on questions for me.
Okay, all right. Give me, go ahead, Councilwoman Dewar.
Yeah, I was appreciative. I almost pulled this item. It was the only one I had circled because it may have come up before, but I just don't recall that it's come up in the last 10 years.
it has not come up since I've been with the city, at least in the last 15 years.
Yeah, and I hadn't pulled it on my agenda briefing with staff, but then I saw it later. And so I think what Councilmember Ebert was getting at too is, could we put it in the contingency fund for this year? But I think we're hearing, don't spend it on anything, including contingency fund. Save it for, and it's considered a one-shot, right? I mean, it's not a recurring fund, it's just a one-time.
Maybe in 40 or 50 years, we might have another million, but we'll
Yeah,
talk
it
then.
sounds like it took a long time to get to this point.
Right? Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, give me a motion.
You want to give a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, I have a motion,
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries.
Police and fire here if you want to go back.
Okay, we're now going to go back to B9, because I believe we have Chief Nance here. Hi.
Hi, Chief.
No, we know you're busy.
We normally have way more public comments, too. We had it kind of light today, so.
Surprised me, and I had to put gas in my car, so.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't want to run out of gas on the way here.
It happens. So I just wanted to talk about these grants. One is for $211,000 and some change. The other one is for $44,000. Just kind of what we're using it for, and it looks like one of them gets divided out amongst Reno, Washoe County Sheriffs, and Sparks. Just how that works. Is it one of those that Reno applies for, and then we get the funds and we distribute out? Do we have assistance in applying for these funds, or how does that work?
So on this is Chief Nance for the record. This is an interlocal agreement that we have with Washoe County and Sparks, and it's funding that comes through that we have to apply for, and we then split with the county and Sparks. So we are the holders of the funds, we apply for it. They then tell us what they're going to spend it on. We put that into the application process. Theirs is different than ours, and then they spend it and we reimburse them out of the funds as we're the manager and keeper of the funds.
So they do part of the process too. This isn't something that we do all of the work on, and then we also do the accounting work of distributing the funds as well. They're involved in that process.
We do all of the work on this grant. They provide us information about what they will be using their funds for.
Okay. And does their uses or whatever they present to us help determine what kind of fund we're going to get, or what kind of
grant we're going to get? No, the dollar amount is predetermined, and then we apply, then we say what we're going to use it for.
Okay, and is there a requirement that we also share the money with Washoe County and Sparks? Is that part of the grant requirement?
Yes, that is part of the grant requirement.
Okay. So that was mainly for the first one, B9. So for B10, this one says for Department of Public Safety, Office of Criminal Justice Assistance to the City of Reno Police Department for breaching equipment in the amount of $44,000. This one just goes to Reno. We don't share this with anybody.
Yes, this is the Nevada Department of Public Safety. So this is a state grant that we utilize, and it's only ours.
Okay, and then just kind of high level, what do we use these funds for?
These is for breaching equipment, so it is to assist officers with making entry into businesses or homes that, where they can't get in any other way. So it's tools that allow us to enter the house or a business.
So can I just get a couple more seconds? Would you allow it? Thank you. So would this be like equipment that every officer has, or would this be mainly like specialized teams that are maybe going through with warrants or something like that?
This is equipment that can be available for patrol use also. So it can be spread out through the department depending on where it's needed.
But it's not standard issue, like every police car doesn't have one of these, or is it?
Most likely, we will not have them in every police car. It depends on how many of the pieces of equipment we can buy, where we deploy them, and the needs.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's it for me. If anybody else has questions. Yeah, absolutely. I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, thank you. I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thanks so much. Going back to you, Councilwoman Ebert.
Okay, so which one are we on now?
We're on item B11.
B11. So this one is fire department. Do we have somebody from fire? Oh, hi. So, just wanted to talk about this a little bit. Fire's kind of a hot topic lately with the talks about regionalization and everything. So just wanted to kind of talk about what this is used for, and is this something that will potentially be shared across borders if we start doing unrestricted auto aid across Washoe County and Sparks as well?
So Samantha Steer with Fire. So this is just a grant related to fuel mitigation. It has nothing to do with our regionalization. However, we did coordinate with Sparks and TM. We are going to offer the dumpsters to anybody within Waste Management's jurisdiction. So
Okay.
it does go into Sparks and it does go into TM.
Okay, so it will be a regional benefit.
It will be.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we know if anyone else in the region is applying for things like this?
So the State Farm one, you have to be invited to apply for their
Okay.
grants.
Okay,
But I
so we don't know.
I can't speak to what other departments are applying for, but I know I try to get as many fuel mitigation grants as I can. I'm
Yeah.
working on one right now.
Yeah, so I hope that Sparks and Washoe County would also share this benefit with us if they receive this type of money as well, or opportunity.
It also depends on the grant type too,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
parameters.
But I mean, for this one, for the fuel stuff, like, we are really in discussions about how fire doesn't respect boundaries, so it'd be great if they would also share with us. I'm not saying they don't, I'm just hopeful that they do.
I will reach out to their grants coordinators and see what they have going on and see if there's something we could do.
That'd be great. That might be a piece
collaboratively.
that we need to start including in these discussions, even if we don't, fully regionalize, where we can kind of work together might be great. So, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you too for pulling this, because I did have a question I was going to ask you offline, but now you're here. So I've recently had some residents that have reached out to me wanting to do fuels reduction behind their property, and it's actually on Reno. They say it's Reno-owned land. I don't know that for sure, but that's what they say. Do you have priorities, or how do I get these people in touch with you, or is that appropriate for them to call you, or how's this work?
They are more than welcome to reach out to our fire prevention team. They can help them coordinate those kind of efforts. This is specific to private property, this grant though. But we can definitely work with them to figure out what options
Well, it
they
may
have.
be private, they may not know whose
Yeah.
property it is, it's just undeveloped land.
Yep.
You know, and so why especially private property versus our city property?
Because we don't have the crews to go in and actually pull all the brush down and all the grasses out. This is just the dumpster going to somebody's house so they can do the cleanup in their property.
Okay, I didn't understand. Okay, so maybe they would have to organize a community cleanup, but at least the dumpster would be there.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just one quick question. Sorry, one quick question, Madam Mayor. It looks like in the staff report, you noted that homes were able to apply through an online application. Does that mean the application process is already closed?
No, it has not opened. It won't open until probably early March,
Okay,
and then it's open until we have no more dumpsters to give out.
awesome. Just making sure that folks still have the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay.
Madam Mayor, we're moving on to item B15, pulled by Councilmember Ebert.
And I think we could do B15 and B17 kind of at the same time, maybe. I lost the other page of my thing. Oh, here it is. I got it. Thank you. So this is, one of them is donating an ambulance to peer network of Nevada, peer support incident support program. And also donation of funds to Nevada Peer Support Network. So just wanted to talk about things that we're doing outside of the discussion of regionalization, but just supporting the efforts of working together as a community to not just address fires across borders, but also support our firefighters and first responders across borders as well. So I don't know if anybody wants to.
Absolutely. Division Chief Pete Bryant with the Reno Fire Department. Good morning, everybody. Charlie, why don't you come on up too in case there's any questions from Peer Support Network. To speak to your point about the community effort here, what this particular item is we recently purchased a new ambulance for use in the Reno Fire Department to replace an older existing ambulance. And this is the item, so we would look normally to auction these surplus vehicles, and then people would make a camper out of them or do whatever they do with them. We thought that this would be a great opportunity for the city and the department to support the Nevada Peer Support Network by having them repurpose this ambulance into something that can be used for all first responders in the community. You know, there's no borders, like you've said, with the fires and everything, that this item is going to be used by the Peer Support Network for whether it might be Reno fires, it might be Truckee Meadows, it might be the Forest Service, it might be most likely all of us together, like when we have these big incidents. So it is 100% in support of what you're describing.
Yeah,
So,
that's great.
Charlie, anything to?
Just want to thank you again. I did this earlier, but it gives us a great opportunity to have 2 incident support units, again, because we were stuck at the Davis fire for 4 days, taking care of our first responders, and McNamara asked me, he said, hey, suppose we get a big fire in Reno, what are we supposed to do? And I said, you know, we're going to work on that. So this is going to give us that ability to have 2 different units. And yes, we go across lines. If you look at the side of our incident support truck, we have the emblem for Reno Fire, Sparks, Truckee Meadows, Incline, Carson. We have everybody there. We take care of everyone. We claim to be Switzerland, and that's the way we want to keep it. And we're here to serve everyone.
Yeah. Well,
Mr. Tabano, if you'll state your name into the microphone for the record too.
It's Charles, but you can call me Charlie. Tabano, Tabano.
My time's up, but I do have a couple other things. Yeah. I just want to say thank you for your work. I know that it's such a high-stress job and extreme job, you know, especially when we have fires in the summer and all the gear the firefighters have to wear. I can't imagine how hot it is and physically exhausting. So it's great that you and your organization are stepping up to support our first responders. You guys know how hard it is, and I think it's wonderful what you do, and just thank you for all your support to our firefighters.
Appreciate that. And it's just a little part of what we do. Mental health is our number one mission. Just 2 weeks ago, we did a debriefing up at Beckworth, at the Beckworth Peak Fire District. They had a strike team that went to LA, and they had a really bad incident that occurred there. So you mentioned talking about crossing boundaries. We drove up there and did 2 debriefings for them and helped them out, and actually got one of their firefighters into to see one of our therapists, which I think is kind of what we do, and that's really rewarding.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And also to have more than one vehicle, unfortunately with fire risk increasing, it's quite likely that we'll have fires in multiple locations. So, it's unfortunate that we need it, but I'm grateful that we'll have it. So
Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Okay. Motion to approve items B15 and B17.
Thank you. I have a motion.
Second.
All those in favor say
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That closes out our consent agenda. And I'm just trying to go back to city manager's notes here.
Item D3.
D1, D3.
C, D3. Okay, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not have any public comment registered, and we have not received any correspondence on this item.
All right, we have George here from the Truckee Meadows Flood Project. So nice to see you. I thought that was you, but, I'm not seeing very well.
I guess I've aged quite a bit or something.
No, you look great. Hi, George.
Hi, so.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. So it's great to be here. Great to see my board members here as well, Miguel and Naomi, or I should say Councilman Martinez and Doer. And I'm just really happy to come to you and be able to present this. So why don't we just go ahead and forward the slides so I can get into this presentation a little bit? Or do I forward it? Oh, okay. Wow, I got it. Okay. All right. Well, so basically, there's different people on this board, from somebody that was just recently elected all the way to somebody that used to have my job. So there's like a very difference of familiarity with our program. So just to give an overview, TURFMA is a joint effort among the cities of Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County, and numerous other stakeholders to reduce the devastating impacts of flooding along the Truckee River. TURFMA builds infrastructure. That's one of our main things, to reduce flood damages, safeguard public health, and create a more resilient community. The primary funding of TURFMA was passed by Washoe County Commission in 1998. After the 1997 flood, it was a 1/8 cent sales tax. It has previously gone to fund the EOC Training Center, purchases of property along Rock and McCarran, along Mill Street, and other projects such as a levee and flood wall near the Reno Sparks Indian Tribe area where the Walmart is near GSR. TURFMA was moved out from under the county in 2011 as a joint powers authority under state statute and a cooperative agreement. So there is a several-fold mission of TURFMA that I'm going to try to boil down into 3 statements. We try to improve floodplain planning management by improving modeling and mapping of the floodplain and giving advice and information to everyone. So along those lines, we just finished a big project where we've been updating the flood map for the entire area of the Truckee River and some of the backwaters. So from that, I mean, there's been a lot of spin-offs, a lot of work being done, and it's already being used even though it's not approved as the new flood map yet. We also work on first responders during flood events, giving them information about flooding impacts. For instance, with our new mapping that we have, we can tell a fire department or a police department, hey, you're gonna encounter 3 feet of water in about 6 hours in this location, so you better get in there quick, or you better use a boat, or things of that nature, or don't put your place where you're going to have people go to for evacuation here because it's gonna flood. We can do things like that with our mapping now and the information we have. Finally, we build flood mitigation infrastructure like below. This is the area near the Walmart for the Reno Sparks Indian Tribe. And one of our biggest projects, and this is part of it, is the Truckee Meadows Flood Project, which I'll get into in a minute. But on top of that, we also do other targeted projects, which Reno, we're really work closely with Reno on several of these projects. So why is there a TRFMA? You know, because we have different people with different levels of familiarity with us. The reason why is you can look at on this map, everything in red would be taken out of this map for flooding. That includes the airport, that includes GSR, that includes the Reno industrial area, the Sparks industrial area. In fact, if there was a 1997 type flood from a UNR study in 2018, the total economic impact of it is over $2 billion in this area alone. Yeah, I mean, just think about that a minute. $2 billion in economic damage. That's losses of tax revenue. That's people losing their jobs. That's interruptions. And so it's a big deal to protect these areas and get them out of that. In addition, the water going through these industrial areas back into the river, going down to a terminal lake called Pyramid Lake, puts a lot of toxins in that lake that probably shouldn't be put in there. So because of these things, it's very important to do these mitigation projects, these heavy-duty infrastructure projects. And that is what our capital improvement plan is about, is all the mitigation projects that we're doing over the course of time to try to ensure that the water only stays in the blue area, not in the red area. So in addition to the Truckee Meadows Flood Project, which is done because it has the highest benefit cost ratio, in fact, if you look at the cost forward of this, it would probably be about 3 to 1, which is a very high BC ratio. The projects are interrelated. So there's things like if you do Rock McCarran, which in addition to protecting from people for the flood, we don't even know the economic benefits of a park that would be installed there and all the things that would go on at that park. That park would have areas for nature viewing that exceed what we actually have now in Reno at the current nature park. It would also be on par with many of the parks in Reno for flat fields and other things for recreation. So it has a lot of side benefits in not just flooding. It also can improve habitat while we're doing this. But all these are related to each other. Without all of them, the areas still get flooded. So they have to all be built to be totally effective and take that red out of the area in that previous map. So in addition to that project, which is a big deal, we do targeted projects. And as people in this room are very well aware, this is one of them. This is the Riverside area. There's been an ongoing dispute with the Corps of Engineers and the Carson-Truckee Watershed Conservancy District about containing the flows in there. And we, since I've been the director, I have been eager to help solve that problem. And so we have put together studies on it. We have worked with CTWSD on designs, and we are willing to actually work with Reno and just give you money so that you can get this up to 14,000, a 50-year event, and protect this area better and get out of this dispute with the Army Corps of Engineers. We want to do it in such a way that all along we've been working very closely with your staff, but we want to do it in such a way we don't totally mess up this neighborhood. So that, and change it in ways that you guys probably don't want it to be changed. So anyways, that's just one of our targeted projects. We also have, in the Hidden Valley area, we have home raises, which has been going on for quite some time. That's a targeted project. We also have mitigation projects, and the Wadsworth Bridge down in Wadsworth is being replaced. In fact, day after tomorrow, it goes out for bid to be replaced. And that will improve flood conditions in that area and also allow the community to have a better bridge that's not dilapidated anymore. That bridge, actually, your feet can go through it, and it's not very safe right now. So, in a capital improvements plan, you have a look at all the expenses that you're going to spend on capital projects over the next 5 years. This is our CIP components of cost forward total. This actually is slightly more than 5 years because I have put all our programs into 5 years. I want to get done with our project in 5 years. We have waited long enough for flood control. We have just been deauthorized from the Corps of Engineers. We can move on our own, we can do our own thing, and we can move forward. So we're moving aggressively on permitting, and we are working to have financing to do this all within the 5-year period, except for some post-construction activities that you can see in that one column there of about 1.5 million, and then another thing for 50,000. But the rest of it, we're trying to get done by the 2029, 2030 budget year. And if you see, another thing that you have in the CIP is by year the expenses. Right now, we have saved $62 million. And we did that so we would not have to pay so much money in bonding or loan costs. And because of that, it brings our costs way down and allows us to start the project. If you look at the fiscal year 25, 26, 26, 27, we have the money to do that. It's only when we get to 27, 28, we have to start borrowing money. And we have found and identified a federal loan program that we have fairly good confidence, even in the new administration, that they will be bullish on, that could fund this and give us a loan at lower cost than bonding rates. With that, we would need to bond roughly $100 million or loan, and we can complete this project. So this leads me to my final slide, which is financing. And I already told you about the 62 million. And we also have about 10 million a year we can put towards capital projects that we've been saving. And we have put money into things before already. For instance, we went into a $17 million mitigation agreement with the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe in the last year. But we still have that 62 million and the 10 million a year. And based on cash flow, we will run out in 27, 28. And TURFMA is looking at this infrastructure loan program. It is from the Corps of Engineers, but only for programs that are deauthorized. So anyways, based on this, we can build this thing. We have the money. It's just a matter of getting our permitting and carrying this forward. And that's where we're at right now, and I think it's a good place to be. And thank you for your time.
All right, George, thank you so much. Okay, we're going to go into questions. Councilwoman Dorr, I know you have some, I'm sure.
Well, thank you. Well, great job, George. Could you go back to the page that has all the detail on the projects? And just a few quick questions. I think you passed it. It
That
was
one?
the summary of the dollars.
Oh, that one, okay.
So this is a list. You have like 7 projects as part of the Meadows, and then you call something targeted. What's a targeted project? I haven't heard that term before.
Well, yeah, in the past, I think you would have called them a traction project when you were.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what targeted is. So.
Okay, what they are is they're not necessarily on our program on a certain year or something like that. But if we have cooperators like the city of Reno or others,
Okay.
or we have a mitigation need, we target that project even though it's not in our plans.
Gotcha. And then on this list, we have Grand Sierra Assist, but we also have Airport Berm Terrace. Now, I haven't heard those projects called those things, so I'm not really sure which projects those are. So they seem to be about the same thing, but could you tell us what those are about?
Sure. The Grand Sierra is along Grand Sierra on that south bank. That's where that is. And then
South Bank of the Truckee.
South Bank of the Truckee, and then the airport is immediately downstream along the bank where the airport comes out, where you see all that land.
Same area, just downstream?
Yeah,
Okay.
same area.
Now, and when, Grand Sierra is planning some grand plans, and to total about $1 billion, and I guess I'm wondering, would they be building, like, for example, when the ball field went in, they built the flood improvements that were needed. It had always been in the flood project plans, but they built it. Have you talked to the Grand Sierra? Like, do we still need to spend this $2.5 million, or is that something?
It is a budget item. Their plans have changed several times, and we talk with them all the time. We're in the room, so to speak. And they're going to spend most of the money on that. So I think of it more like where we were with Walmart, where Walmart did spend a lot of money on the berm and the levee and the flood wall. So,
Well-
but we spent a little bit on it as well.
Yeah, well, we actually worked with them to get them to spend the $2.2 million. It's not that they volunteered it.
Right.
So I think it'd have to be the same kind of thing where, you have a broad project and you're looking at what the Grand Sierra cost share would be. And then finally, I wanted to ask, and I might have to have a second round, is about this Riverside Drive project. So last time I heard at the flood project meeting that it was $5 million, but I see $3 million, and I'm wondering what the difference might be.
I don't know where you got the 5 million, but it's.
At the meeting, the presentation.
I don't remember 5 million. I do remember the actual estimates from the engineer are 1 million for the one area where you do the path, which is a maintenance activity. And then the 2 million is for the flood wall upstream of Boo Street Bridge. That are the latest estimates.
Okay. All right. Someone else?
Madam Mayor, thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation. So I'll admit that I don't know a lot about TURFMA. And what I do know, I hear in bits and pieces over time. So please bear with me. I have some basic foundational questions. So first of all, where does the money that TURFMA operates with, where does it come from?
Okay, that comes from a 1/8 cent sales tax that was passed in 1998 by Washoe County.
Okay, so it's all Washoe County residents within the boundaries of Washoe County
Yes.
pay for it, okay.
Sales
And then
tax.
is it?
Well, I mean, anybody comes here pays
Oh,
sales tax.
yes, understand. Let me also ask, is it like a joint powers authority? How does it derive its powers?
It is a joint powers authority. It's also in the Nevada legislature. It's under statute.
Okay, and so what is your accountability then as the director is to the board who is from various jurisdictions, it makes up the board, is that accurate?
That's correct. There's 6 on my board, 2 from Reno, 2 from Sparks, and 2 from the county.
Okay, and there was a time, although historically in the past, where any one vote could block an item. Is that accurate, and now that no longer is the case?
That was changed a few years ago.
Okay. Perfect. So now we're operating from the same playing field. I want to talk specifically about, and I'm not sure which one of these addresses the specificity of it, but that area along Rock and McCarran. So it's what I think of as the future home we hope maybe for a park. Is that, which project up there would I be talking about?
You would be talking about Rock McCarran, the $65.5 million project.
So just tell me more about that, because that seems to me very exciting, and the opportunity there to create more recreational opportunities while also creating flood storage and mitigation just seems great. So tell me what the status is, what we're looking at, like a timeline, how we're going to get there, just the good news of it rather than the minutia of the operational stuff that I've already asked about.
Okay, the good news is it's in design, so we're doing a full-on design up to 60%, which means we can take that to permitting. We're also staggering that as the number 2 project after Vista Narrows, because Vista Narrows needs to be done first to lower the water levels for mitigation. So Vista Narrows is first, now Rock McCarran is second, and we are in the process of designing it. We've also gotten a grant for the design as well to help us with that. And on March 12th at the McKinley Arts Center, we are going to have a community meeting about that. And anybody's invited. You know, if you'd like to come to that, we'd love to have you. We just developed a couple of videos about our project that are, you know, like one of them's called It Could Happen Tomorrow, about the flooding. And those are going to premiere at that meeting. And it should be a very good meeting. We're going to have stations and people can go around and look at things. So, but that is ongoing. By the end of the year, we should have a design. And then we're going to keep pushing to get that into a build. I'm trying to speed it up, actually.
Amazing. And so for my part, your statement today is that the $59 million for that project, hopefully based on the design elements that you're going through right now, will create both flood storage and a park. I mean, it's not one without the other, is it?
Right. It may not be every little aspect of the park, but everything will be graded as a park.
Okay. I mean, certainly I hope it's more than grading, right? I mean, if we
Right.
just have a piece
There would
of
be
graded
parking
earth.
lots, there would be, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm very excited about it, and it's sort of the thing that I am most interested in knowing about, and maybe we can take the remainder of my inquiry offline. But for my part, this is a very important component of that side of the community, and the ability to have more flat fields there really resonates and speaks to me.
Yeah, the way I put it is Vista Narrows is foundational, but this is the jewel of the project. And I think Mrs. Durer would agree to that as well. You know, that it's very important.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if I missed this because we were talking about this up here a little bit too, but have the colonies been included in these discussions at all?
In which discussions? They are actually a partner with us. We
Okay.
actually have an agreement with them to maintain the flood wall and the levee that was built.
Okay.
So
okay.
we're in constant contact with them. We're also in constant contact with the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe as best as possible.
Great, great.
As well. We have
Okay.
a big agreement with them as well.
Okay, so looking through here too, is there anything that you guys are working on for the North Valleys area, or is this just strictly through the downtown? Or, I mean,
The
down-
our
further down into
jurisdiction
Reno?
under statute and under, we have what's called a plan that we, you know, what we can do and not do. It is for the Truckee River and backwatering areas.
Okay.
So it generally is for that.
Okay, all right.
So not North Valleys, that isn't a Truckee River
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, understood. And then this is not, and again, forgive me, I was having a little bit of discussion about another part of this. Does this flood into where the Pembroke Fields are at all, or is that,
Yes.
okay, so that's the flooding area for the park?
Yes, and we've been working with some people, and Councilman Martinez about, you know, what some options might be and how to improve things, et cetera, et cetera. But that's more of an advisory role.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does the park itself become the, containment area for the overflow?
That's to be determined. That's not my call. We're
Okay,
just
but
advising.
potentially that's where it could be, the flat fields could end up being the,
Yes, that's possible, definitely.
okay. All right, thank you. When would we find out about that? Is that just, part of the process? Will anybody be coming back to talk with us about that during the council meeting?
I think that would probably be more on whoever's developing this and pressing it forward. All we're doing is giving them information, modeling, so that they can really do an informed design and
Got it.
better design.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? go right ahead. Hi.
Hi, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your time and the information. I have a couple of questions. And I think this might be a theme. We understand you have the means to do projects, you have the resources to do projects, so we're all very excited about getting these projects completed. My first question is, when is the CIP list updated? How often do you update your list? And I understand you have a BC process that you go through. And then my second question is, near and dear to my heart, the Wells Street, there's a project, I think the old Wells Street Bridge. So I'd like a little bit more information on the detail when that is going to be coming towards fruition. And again, how often do you update your CIP? Thank you.
The CIP is required to be updated every year, and we do it in March. I was coming around to hear feedback and stuff before I do it. This is a very useful process for me to hear your comments and questions. Regarding Wells Street, we did have that on our project list, and we were interested in doing that, and we were going to build a pedestrian bridge, but the landing point of the pedestrian bridge was privatized, so that kind of kiboshed it for a while. But you're probably talking about that underbridge, right?
Exactly,
Yeah, that's
yes.
something that's still on our list, but it's not imminent or anything.
It's not on this list, right?
Not on this list, no, but it's on our list. We have something called a map book, and it's in that. And that's something that could happen in the future.
Okay.
It's just a matter of, putting together the partners. It's a targeted project, just like Riverside is, so to speak.
So I guess as a follow-up for an action, Madam Manager, is maybe I can work with my other partners on your board and you to see how we might get that back on the project list. Because that area we're really trying to invest in as a city and new neighborhoods. I just came from the University Village from UNR, and that would be very helpful to me.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Councilman Martinez.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Dr. Robeson, for the presentation. I don't have any questions. I just really wanted to thank you for making your rounds. It looks like you're taking your presentation to all the local jurisdictions and making sure that you're getting that feedback that we're better informed for the CIP approval that's coming up and the budgeting. I also wanted to commend you for two things. One is working so collaboratively with everybody on the projects that we have going on, especially Riverside, and thank you for highlighting the work that's going on there. I know that deauthorization from the Corps definitely helped improve the design of that space. And then the other one was looking at funding mechanisms to get these projects moving forward. I know you and I have had multiple conversations about that and how we actually push forward. One of the first things that I heard from other board members when I first got on the board for TURFMA was, the lack of action over the last several years, and so it really looks like we're making some progress and we're seeing some of that move forward. So I just wanted to commend you for your time and energy in moving those projects forward and the funding mechanisms to get those done. So I think your goal is to get them done by 2030, from what I understand, at least the ones that are on the CIP list currently.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Dr. Rosen.
All right. I don't have anything.
Okay,
additional.
thank you.
All right, go ahead, Councilwoman Dorr.
Thank you. A few follow-up questions. Thanks, George. And I did want to comment, I don't recall you doing this pre-CIP visit, so I'm really glad to see it now. You just answered a question saying that you hope to finish everything in 5 years. And I guess I wanted to say, is that realistic? Are you saying the 185 million or the 192 million? What do you hope to accomplish in 5 years?
I am hoping to accomplish everything on that list except for the post-construction.
Okay.
And if I pull on the next slide, you can see the expenditures per year.
Right.
Yeah, that's the goal. The only thing I think that can disrupt that goal is permitting.
Okay.
Because I had very good talks with the loan agent, and I think it's going to continue in the new administration.
Well, on the permitting, I mean, you've been trying to get Vista Narrows permitted, I think, for 3 or more years. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so what I'm worried about is exactly that I feel like this is a little bit optimistic in terms of, reality testing in terms of the permitting, especially for these 3 big projects, what had been called Mill and McCarran, the this North Bank levee, which I assume is in Sparks, and this Vista Narrows. You just got that one. You have the permitting now, right?
No, we do not have the permit
For
yet.
Vista.
And the key to the permitting is Vista Narrows, we did a cumulative effects analysis of the whole project. So if they permit Vista, they're implicitly okaying the cumulative
gotcha.
effects, so
That's
it makes the permitting easier going down the
Gotcha,
road.
since we've started down below.
And
moving up.
two big things.
Yeah.
Deauthorization signed by President Biden on
Right.
January 4th, and the tribal agreement with the Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe, which was the main obstacle to us getting permitted.
That was huge. I mean, I went down for the signing ceremony with the Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe, and I mean, it was remarkable that we've achieved that. We gave them, for the benefit of the board, $17 million as help with a mitigation offset. So I wanted to just quickly, I only have a little time left, ask about Riverside. So you said you have it on your list, so you're committing to build it. I mean, 3 million looks like a bit of a placeholder. You're committing whatever it takes to build that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
All
right.
right,
It's an
good.
approximate amount,
Yeah, I got it.
estimate.
Right, could be less, could be more. And then on Mill and McCarran, the Meadows project, definitely, I actually cried at the flood project when that was authorized by the team. It was such a long time in coming. But I was a little concerned about something you just said, that you would level the fields but not build them. And that was not my understanding. Is that something the board can discuss about what our responsibility is, since recreation is listed in our legislation as a key component? I don't think it meant part of the recreation, so.
Well, I think what we're talking about here is you can have fields, you can have them seeded, you can have them rolled, you can have amphitheaters, you can have a bridge over the river. There's just a lot of things that can happen. So
Right.
I think it's up to our board to decide how far to go with that.
That's what I thought too, but when you were kind of precise when answering Member Reese's comment, and it seemed like you had drawn a bright line with leveling versus building, and I wasn't sure, that's why I'm asking
I don't
the
have the
question.
authority to draw that line.
Okay, and then one final question. So I was really pleased to see you're having a public meeting about this project. The only thing that gave me pause is it's on the same day as our council meeting, and we often have evening hearings. And that, might affect, well, all of us, any of us that would like to attend. I know you've already advertised that one, but is that something that you could avoid going forward?
Sure.
Any one of the
Yeah.
3 jurisdictions, our meeting day is not a good day to have a meeting.
Okay,
Okay, does that make sense?
absolutely.
Okay, all right. That's it for the moment. Thank you.
All right, any further questions? George? Okay, so let's talk about this Meadows project. I have been hearing this forever and ever and ever and ever and ever.
I'm aware.
And I'm afraid that it's not going to happen. I think we just talked about it. How can you get this to fruition? I mean, I just think it's so long overdue. And what I love about you is that you are really passionate about this project. And so I want to see it under your leadership. What can you do to get this to come to fruition?
Okay, well, when I took over in 2019, the first thing I saw was the Corps really did not want to work with us.
Yeah.
So I corrected that by putting a stop order and started saving money.
Yeah.
And that's why we have 62 million in the bank for projects. Secondly, I started saying we need to deauthorize. They will not accept our plan. We don't like their plan. And they weren't even being sincere about their plan.
Yeah.
So we worked on that. Took a while to convince certain people, and I get that. But we finally got that. We worked with our lobbyists. We got it done. It got signed just in January. So it took us a while to get that done. And I think COVID had a lot to do with that. Then secondly, in 2020, I approached the Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe and I said, look, I want to work with you. Whatever we do, we want to make it better for you. We want the outcome of this whole project to be better for you. Here's good things about it. Here's bad things about it. Here's what can we do for mitigation. And so we worked on that for years, and we finally got that done in October of last year. So that's what I have done. Now what I'm doing is I'm pushing these design projects forward, and I'm working on financing so I can do it rapidly.
How much do you think this is going to cost?
$192 million forward.
Really? Because I look at it as fields, and why is that so?
Well, that he meant all the projects, but for Mill and McCarran, he has 65 million.
And so tell me why 65 million?
Well, we have to build levees on both sides to protect the industrial areas. We also, what we're trying to do here, we're not just building a park with some fields. We are going to open up that river and let it meander a bit. And it's going to be, it's just amazing what we're doing. We're actually letting that river become more natural. So there's a lot of moving of dirt that we have to do to accomplish that. And it's very tricky, and we're there's just a lot to it.
Okay, when are you going to start that?
Well, we have that scheduled to start in fiscal year '27.
Okay.
The construction, we're already designing it.
Okay.
So,
But that seems so long. How long are you going to be there? How long?
well, they just gave me a bonus if I stay until '27.
Okay.
So I have to stay the whole time to get that bonus, so.
Okay.
Yeah, Ed Lawson did that to me.
Oh,
But,
okay, there you
anyways,
go.
But that's probably the end for me. I'm getting old.
No,
You hear my
no. You
voice
got to
as
get
I'm
that.
old.
You got to get that one. That's going to be your legacy.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm hoping it'll be a lot of your legacies too. I know Councilman Doer, yourself, had sat on that board, and you're part of the legacy. And now I can see Councilman Reese is excited, and Councilman Martinez. It's all of our legacy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, George. We appreciate you.
All right.
Can I just
Ask one last
go
question, Madam
right
Mayor?
ahead?
Just because your comments were so timely and thoughtful that I wanted to ask. So tell me again the price tag for the Meadows project, because you've moved on from that.
It's roughly $65 million.
Okay. And here's what I want to make sure I am not hearing. I don't want you to tell me that we're going to spend $64 million on the levees and the meandering, which leaves you $1 million for the park, right? I mean, I hope what we're getting is everything in that area that we can get, we will get. Is that a fair way to characterize it?
I think that's a fair way to characterize it, and I think it's important for advocacy. You have Councilman Martinez, obviously Councilman Doer is going to be fighting for every park feature possible, and there'll be others as well, I think. So I am governed by a board. I don't create policy, I execute policy. And I wanted people to be informed, but it's really up to my board to do that.
Well, and I
have
suppose-
confidence in my board.
I do too, all good people. I suppose that I'm speaking to my colleagues on this body who then go over and represent the interests of the city at that body. Therein lies my hope. A, that we get going, right, that we get this built in our lifetimes, right? B, that the $65 million is not $64 million for levees and meandering, but that there is actual money to build the park amenities. Because what our community is looking for is a new crown jewel within the parks world so that we can have more recreational opportunities and amenities for people to enjoy. That's really it. We know we're all short of flat fields. We know that we have an incredible large park in Rancho San Rafael. We need another very large, very accessible park to include all the things that we can get out of it, not just flood mitigation and storage. That's all I'm really saying.
Yeah, thank you. And that's what I think we all want. And it's like we have Oxbow and Idlewild put together with ball fields. That's the vision for this park. So.
Well, thanks, George. We'll let you go back to work so you can start digging.
Madam Mayor, can I
Thank
just,
you.
before you leave, George, one follow-up really quick. In order to achieve this vision that our council obviously has, I want to make two things clear. One is to build on what Councilmember Reese just said. The The recreation elements are what get people to buy into the flood project elements. Most of the people won't be touched, to the question earlier about Ward 4. This does not touch Ward 4. This does not touch Ward 6. But in order to get all the people supporting the project, this provides something for everyone in our entire community, Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County residents. It's going to become a major attraction. It's going to affect our economic bottom line because we'll now be able to have tournaments. So it's a huge economic driver. So to get there, I just want to make sure, something I've observed at the flood project that's really been puzzling, is that we changed the voting structure so we didn't have to vote, only vote majority rules, and that's 4 of 6. But recently I've noticed that you've been bringing resolutions, and in our agreement, those require a supermajority. And I've been very confused because here at Reno, when we vote on a project, we're not doing a resolution, we're voting to adopt a budget, to adopt a project, and it's majority rules. And that was the intent of the agreement. And I'm just wondering if you could take a closer look at that, because achieving a 5 out of 6 vote is more difficult, obviously intentionally, than a 4 out of 6 vote. And so if you could look at that sooner rather than later, I think that would actually help us get to where we need to be.
I know our council is listening. Hi, Mike. And Mike, go ahead and start looking at this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I don't think we have to take any action, correct, Carl? No. Okay. All right, moving forward. I'm going to send it back to you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're now moving on to item D1. David 1.
Okay, do you have any public comment on this item?
We do not have any public comment registered and have not received any correspondence.
All right, thank you so much.
Good evening. For the record, Angela Foos, Assistant Director with Development Services. The purpose of this agenda item is really to just give the council and the general public a refresher of what our master plan is and how we all use it to guide decisions. And that's everything from staff making decisions to our planning commission and to you as the council. So big picture, high level, our master plan that we have today, it's a great document. It was adopted in 2017, so we've had this document for a number of years. The goal here is to look at growth and development for the next 20 years. As a city, what do we want to look like between now and the next 20 years? It doesn't go into specifics about, well, where should every coffee shop go? And where should every industrial building go? It's much more high-level, policy level. I will highlight that this went through a very extensive public input process. It was about 2.5 years. We had over 6,000 public input opportunities and kind of points during that process. So it was not something that was done in a very small window. It was a very long, extensive process to get to this great document. So what is the purpose? Most communities do have what we call either a master plan or a comprehensive plan. And again, it's a guide. It's meant to be just a vision for the community. What it is not is a document that directs us to do any one thing. Now, when you look at something that regulates, like our zoning code, it says you shall do this. And nowhere in our master plan does it use the word shall. It uses words like promote, encourage, and should. So you should not be using the master plan to say, well, the master plan says we have to have a coffee shop here. So we're not going to deny a project because you're proposing something that's not a coffee shop. Just want to make that very clear. High level, policy, big picture. Do not use this as a point to say, well, the master plan says you shall do this. The word shall is not anywhere in our master plan. Big picture, what's in it? Well, we talk about downtown. Most of you probably have seen our downtown. It's a very vibrant area. We have 6 different districts that are called out. And each of them call out kind of different things, right? How we deal with parking, how we deal with density. Should we have unlimited development in all of our 6 different areas within downtown? No. So they're all kind of teed up to be high intense development, but a little bit different. Our entertainment district, for instance, really is that core where we want that 24-hour vibrant activity. As you go further out, university district, obviously that's where you want things like the university and education. You go down more to the Pounding district. That's an area that's more historic. So again, very different needs, and all of that's generally speaking called out as part of the downtown area. Employment area. Now, this is one that we've had a lot of discussion on more recently in the past couple of years as we've seen the industrial development really boom. We have 3 different areas that we call out for employment. One is industrial. That's everything in that dark gray. As you can see, it's not focused in one area, but we have it throughout the city. So we intend to have big employment, meaning industrial, manufacturing, logistics, in the North Valleys and in the southeast part of Reno. So it's really spread out. We also have some of it in the Verdi area. Innovation, that's more of things like TMCC and UNR. And as you can see, the purple, it's really focused near the TMCC campus and the UNR campus. And then aviation. We have a ton of that blue aviation in the Reno Stead Airport and in the Reno Tahoe Airport. And for a long time, we were focusing on industrial in these areas, drones in these areas, high tech in these areas. But again, those are called out for a very different type of employment. And then finally, neighborhoods. We have 3 different categories of neighborhoods. Of course, in our inner downtown area, that's where we want to see high density and a mix of use. Then we have more of our central. That's everything, generally speaking, within the McCarran Loop. Again, we want to see higher density, but not unlimited density. So we want to see your duplex, your triplex, your apartments, all kind of within that area. As we go further out, more of that yellow area, that's more of our suburb area. And we call it a lot of our older suburban areas. That's anywhere kind of close to the McCarran Loop, but maybe not in the McCarran Loop. And then further out in that foothill. So that's the areas where we're going to see growth happening over the years. This is areas where we probably are going to have steeper slopes because our region is shaped like a bowl. These are areas that, yes, we're still going to be encouraging residential development, but we're going to have to look at it from a different perspective because there's some sensitive things in these areas. So again, from a master plan, we're not saying we support or discourage development in any of these areas. We're just acknowledging that this is what it is, and this is where we know we're going to have to grow over the next 20 years. Some other things that's in this master plan, concurrency. Now that has to do with things like public infrastructure. We want to make sure anytime we approve development, we have things like sewer lines, water lines, police stations, fire stations. Do we have the ability to serve development as it's being approved? Now, that does not mean that when each development comes in, you know what, you're not within 6 minutes of a fire station, we're going to deny you. That's not what that means. That means as a city, we need to start looking at where we're going to build fire stations. And we should be striving for a 6-minute response time from every building and every business, right? These are things we aspire to do. It doesn't mean we're denying any development because they can't achieve these things. It is our job as the city to make these things happen. And it's everything, right? It's air quality. Again, tree canopy, which we've had a lot of discussions on. How close we are to parks and where we build parks. So as a city, these are the things that we consider when we're looking at our CIP. Question we get over and over again, well, how do we prioritize? There's hundreds of goals and policies. How do we know which one's more important? So let's just go back and understand kind of the history of where we've been. This plan was adopted in 2017. Key things that we were focusing on in 2017. Jobs. We had just come out of the recession. We'd lost probably 3/4 of the construction industry because they'd gotten laid off and they'd moved. So at that time, as a region, we were focusing on jobs. Tesla had already announced, Switch had just been built. We were going to be a high-tech region. That is what Edon was promoting. That is what we were promoting. We want high-tech business to come here. The average housing price was about $350,000, which is fantastic. Everybody could buy a house because we had too many houses, right? We also had the Swan Lake flood going on. Again, just keeping in mind, these were things that changed the trajectory of what our priorities were. Once Swan Lake flood happened, what did we do? We changed the way we look at storm drain in North Valleys. We put in new policies to deal with that. Again, our priorities have had to shift because things have happened. Let's go forward to the next year, 2018. At this time, jobs were still really important. Housing prices were a little bit higher. Average price was about $370,000. Tesla was built and had about 7,000 employees, which was fabulous. And now we're starting to hear that, you know, we need more housing. Daybreak was approved. Stonegate was approved. So between those two projects, it was about 9,000 new potential homes, 2018. How many of those homes have been built today? Zero. Again, our priorities have shifted over the years, and here's how long it takes to get anything done. 2019, the year before COVID. Housing, again, started to become a problem. Housing prices jumped. Now they're at $420,000 as your average house price. We started initiating these affordable housing subsidies related to sewer subsidies and building permit subsidies. The drone industry was taking off. That was huge back then. We don't really talk about drones anymore, but remember when drones were gonna deliver refrigerators and act like DoorDash? That was a thing. That's what was happening in 2019. We also initiated the 1,000 homes in 120 days because we needed housing. That was a really big thing at that point. We also adopted our sustainability and climate action plan. Fast forward, 2020, the world crashed. We had riots. We were dealing with homeless issues, and so we spent a ton of time and resources and money focusing on the CARES campus and building the CARES campus. Housing prices were continuing to go up. Just as at City Hall, how did we deal with it, right? We had to send everybody home to work remotely. We had to figure out how we were going to pay to send everybody home to work remotely. So we were buying laptops, we were buying cell phones. Everything then became, how do we do everything online? So we had to shift the way we worked. We went from submitting building permits in person, where you submitted hundreds of copies of a piece of paper, to now doing everything through technology. Our world suddenly had to shift. I'm going to fast forward for about the last 3 years because it's all just been a blur. Once we got that ARPA money, our priorities drastically changed. We focused on everything from how do we get businesses open again? If you remember, coming out of COVID, we had nobody coming to downtown. So we really focused on what can we do to help the businesses. We gave them free ability to have outdoor dining, right? We gave them unlimited outdoor dining permits. We changed our regulations on live entertainment, again, in the hopes of getting more businesses to open again. That was a key priority for us. We had the Moana Pool, the Public Safety Center. Housing prices are continuing to go up. We did the Truckee River Plan. We've done a ton of things to help activate our downtown. We've spent money on horse fencing. Just generally speaking, our priorities in the last 3 years, drastically different than when they were in 2017 when we adopted this master plan. So how do we move forward and ask ourselves what's a priority? I think the key thing for you to understand is this master plan is not a list of priorities. It is a list of, this is the things we have to deal with as a city, and day by day, as our strategies change, as our strategic plan changes, as so many things happen that are out of our control, we have to be willing to pivot. And so we can't say our priority today is one thing or the other. It's not just affordable housing. It's not just jobs. It's not just, do we have enough parking in downtown? Everything we do needs to look at the bigger picture. The vision of, is this the city we want to see in 20 years? The other thing I want to highlight is that we shouldn't be using this master plan as a tool to either approve or deny things. I often see that we are making recommendations, let's say based on sustainability. I'm going to deny this apartment project because they don't have solar panels. Nowhere in the master plan or in our zoning code does it say any apartment project has to have solar panels. But people say, well, the master plan says we should be sustainable. Yes, as a city, we have to have sustainable policies. We have this whole department that deals with sustainability. We are achieving that. Nowhere does it say we have to have solar panels on anything. So I would just caution you about using our master plan to point out one little thing and use that as an excuse to deny. I also want to highlight, we recently heard a decision by the Nevada Supreme Court, the Badlands case. Now let's talk about repercussions of our decisions. Badlands. This was a golf course project in Las Vegas, and there was a big lawsuit. Las Vegas lost the lawsuit and now owes about $250 million in taxpayer money to cover the cost, because they made a decision that the courts felt wasn't, it was more arbitrary and capricious. We use that word a lot, but I want to bring it back to when you're making decisions and you use the master plan as a tool to deny something, know that that could have repercussions, because this does not regulate anything. So be cautious about how you use this. Again, this is the vision. Are we creating the city that you want to create, that you want to see in the next 20 years? And so many priorities, everything's going to shift. You got to look at it in the long term. So hopefully this kind of gives you a better idea of what is the purpose of the master plan and how we as staff and planning commission and council should be using this as a guide and not as a regulatory document. Okay? Any questions on the master plan?
Thank you, Ms. Foose. I appreciate that. If I may, I'll start. First of all, thank you for the excellent presentation. Perhaps we'll think of it as one of the most important presentations that we'll see. And so you did an outstanding job. I think a couple of things. One is I do think that the presentation should be shared with as many groups as you're able to go out and be with, right? I think that starts with our own planning commission, which I have some concerns about how hyper-political it appears to be becoming when I see planning commissioners giving statements to the press and being feted online as some I don't know, almost political body. That was not the intention of our separation of organizational structure, that they become that. So I'm worried that in the haste to treat it like a marathon or a sprint, they have missed that it is a longer term thing. So that's the ask I have of you specifically, is to make sure that we're sharing it in our NABs, with our planning commissioners directly, with any group. We should have open houses where you're able to make the presentation. In part because I think what happens, and you've mentioned it too, is people take that document, which is how many pages? 100, 120 pages?
Probably 500.
Yeah, it's long.
It's long.
It's a long one. It's in a binder on my desk, and I look at it often. But some people use it as a sword, and some people use it as a shield. And it's crazy to me that it is often the same group. One uses it as a shield, one uses it as a sword against each other, right? Because the master plan is a planning document, it is not intended to be code specific and directive, but people will lift one line out of it and say, aha, I therefore should be approved. Or on the other side of the room says, aha, I think it should be used to deny it. And this is a challenging thing. We are all trying to balance competing needs. I had a constituent who called me this morning, 9 o'clock, had questions about a project that was approved last week up off 7th Street. And we had about a half an hour where we could communicate. And I think by the end of it, we both understood where each person was coming from. It was a productive and gracious conversation, but it was really about policies and paradigms and why we do the things we do. For my part, I've emphasized the importance of building housing of all different types, but housing is a very important thing for me. I've also prioritized parks and recreation, right? And so those are important things. And I think our master plan gives us good guideposts, but it is not a set of rules inscribed on a tablet by which anyone should use to approve or deny a project. And so I thank you for your conversation. I'm interested to hear my colleagues' thoughts. I really appreciate the update.
Who are you calling?
Thank you, Councilman Reese. Thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate it. I'm just going to come out and say I would like our Planning Commission to be the first stop on your roadshow so they can understand this a little bit better. I think it will be very valuable to them. I know this is about balances and resources, right? It's always about prioritization that your presentation said. Yes, we want sustainability, but one of our priorities is also economic development. It is also to increase housing and supply. So it's about balancing and prioritizing. And I just wanted to confirm that if we want a policy of we are going to have solar, just to use your example, on every house, that is something that this body will say, and we will make a policy of it. That is my understanding of it. It is not something that we are bringing in one-offs on every decision that we make. This is a broad document. It is a guiding document. It is a planning document. It even says, planning in it. So, master planning. Is that accurate? Am I understanding that right? Because when I was on the planning commission, we would go back and forth as planning commissioners on, well, I want this and I want that. And at the end of the day, with the help of our legal team, it was always something that was brought up to council to make those policy decisions.
Absolutely, and that's everything we do, right? So if you want to require certain things like EV charging or solar power, or every house has to contribute to affordable housing, you need to make that an actual text amendment to some section of our zoning code to make it a policy, make it a standard, make it something that we have to do, not that we should do, but that we shall do. Two very different things.
And that helps us in a lot of different ways. It helps us as decision makers, and it helps the community for some sort of consistency and predictability. So what they are doing, they know what they're supposed to be doing when they come to the planning commission or when they come to city council. So thank you for the update. It's always good to get back into this and learn a little bit more.
Thanks.
I guess, go
You're
ahead.
the vice mayor.
Oh, I know. I wasn't sure if Devin was running, or Mr. Councilman Reese. Go ahead, madam.
All right, thank you so much. I thought it was a great presentation as well. One thing just on this slide that you've left up, I'm confused about calling it, using an analogy of a marathon and a sprint with the master plan. I think the more appropriate thing to do is talk about policy and ordinance. So policy is a guidance or direction that this council has said, here's where we want to go. And the ordinance is here, as you just said, what we must do or shall do. So I don't think marathon and sprint are relevant to me. It doesn't resonate. But here's where I'm struggling. So we have an item next on C1 coming up. And the very first thing in terms of general review criteria, it says, the decision-making body shall review all development applications for compliance with applicable general review criteria stated below. Consistency with the Reno master plan. The proposed development shall be consistent with the Reno master plan. So the way I interpret that is, let's say we have adopted a policy, not a law, that says we want, environmental goods, whether, to use your example, solar. But here comes someone who could use solar, but they've chosen not to. They're making a decision that is quite contrary to the direction we would like them to go. So to continue reading it, the decision-making authority shall weigh competing plan goals, policies, and strategies, and may approve an application that provides a public benefit even if the development is contrary to some of the goals, policies, and strategies. So I take this very seriously. I try to balance the competing goals. I mean, if we say we want housing, we would just automatically approve every housing development, no matter what it looked like, no matter what impacts it had, no matter how it affected neighboring areas. That's not what we do. What I've seen us historically do over the 10 years, and in particular the 8 years, I guess, since the plan was adopted, is that we are all trying to balance the various sections. We know we need housing. We've adopted affordable housing as a top goal, but we're not saying at all costs. And that's the way to discuss a current issue, data centers. I want them. We need them, but not at all costs. And when we have an agency like Tom was saying, it really matters how much water you're using, and does it make sense to adopt a water bottling plant? Also a data center that uses a lot of water. Is that our primary good, that we would take that precious drop of water, or should we put it to housing? Since that's our priority and policy. So I don't think that the decision-making is devoid of the master plan. It's the very first criteria we have to look at. And once doesn't say build everything, and economic development is the number one. It says we have to balance them. And we have adopted affordable housing as a top priority. So I think that gives the edge to affordable housing when it comes to balancing the criteria. So thank you, and I may have more comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman or Member Dewar. Do you know how to use Councilmember Ebert? I see your hand up, but do you know how to use the electronic hand?
We haven't got the training, or is mine?
Okay, all you have to do is go to item D1. Look at the top right where it says speakers, and then raise your hand. You got it?
Can you see that?
Yes, I can. I can see Councilwoman Ebert now, please. And then I see you lined up in the queue. Councilwoman Ebert.
Am I after Miguel
You're
and
now.
Devin? Okay. So I just want to kind of echo what Councilmember Dewar said. I don't think that we
Here it is
can
down
take the
further.
principles away, the principles in the master plan away from what we're trying to accomplish with development. Otherwise, what's the point of having it, right? Is it just a statement that we're saying and it doesn't mean anything? I think that we need to find ways to incorporate it into our master plan, into things that we want to see. And I think that's a document that we've put out there for developers to take a look at and understand what we're trying to do. And it's also up to them to say, we want to present developments that fit in with what Reno is looking to do. And none of these projects are on an island. They all fit into what we have going on around us. And it matters if somebody is going to use a ton of water or a ton of electricity. We need to take that into account. It's not just that we're trying to force everyone to have solar panels, although some people might have opinions about that. But it's not an apples to apples comparison with some of these developments. So with the principles that we have regarding sustainability and things like that, no, that's not the only thing to kind of hang our hat on, but also I think that's relevant to highlight when we have development coming through that is a particular strain on environmental resources. I feel like that's the purpose of having it there. So I think that's really relevant. And also to the Planning Commission, I think that some people might not be happy with what they've done, but I think that it's really just them saying that they want more guidance from the council. And I think they went about it the best way that they thought they should. I don't think anybody should take personal offense to it. I think that they just want more guidance from us. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But again, I think that we have this for a reason. I also think we have a major housing shortage. I mean, we talk about how many jobs came here and no additional houses in those projects. Like, that's a problem. We're never going to have affordable housing if we don't have enough supply for people. We're never going to reach those goals that we're striving for of having people's household expenses for where they live be 30% of their income, because there's just not enough to go around, and that's just kind of how supply and demand works. So we do kind of need to lean more on certain things to try and meet some of our goals. And it's really not our fault if developers are not willing to incorporate the things in our master plan when they come to us.
Thank you, Councilmember Ebert. Councilmember Reese, did you have your hand up?
I did. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of the robust conversation today, because I think it highlights that two people reading the same document can see different things in the document, right? And I ascribe no ill motive to someone who sees a provision in the in the master plan and says, I think it really means this, and I can say, I think it really means this. That's why it's an aspirational goal, right? I have been someone who has said we should push for the best projects, regardless of where they're located, who's bringing them, what their variety is, whether they be commercial or residential. And oftentimes, again, the pushback that I hear is when people like the project, they think the master code supports it 100%. When they don't like it, they say, oh no, the master code is opposed to that. And therein lies the rub. People can see the master plan and really take different things from it. That's the difference between it and a municipal code that says you can only build on X number of acres, right? We can measure the X number of acres. We cannot measure aspirational goals of a plan. And so that's the thing. And I also think it is odd to say that if one supports, for example, higher density housing, then one hates the environment. I don't think that's true. One can also say one thinks data centers can be bad, and there are versions of them in a lot of other places where they're historically bad. They consume enormous amounts of water, energy. But one can also say, well, look at this data center here specifically. It is doing a whole bunch of things that improve green technology, or it provides for better path forward. It doesn't use water, it uses recirculated air, right? Each one of those have to stand on their own merits. I am thrilled that our Planning Commission is very interested in hearing about progressive ideas that are happening in other areas. I think that we as policymakers have to take those up as we deem appropriate. I also think it's true that we have spent, in the 6 years that I've now been on council, we have made priorities. We've said, okay, we want your staff, which is a limited number of people with lots to do, we want them to look at this thing, right? And that obviously prioritizes that over something else. Because when we put one thing in your queue, it means something else is going further down the queue. And so for my part, you've done an excellent job as the administrator trying to understand and take guidance from 7 people who have 7 very different opinions on the world, all well-meaning and intentioned in their opinions that they form. For my part, some of this is both timely and some of it is just, we just need to have these discussions more frequently, right? And so thank you for your staff's work in all of these areas. There will be no shortage of new areas to explore. When they come to us is really a function of the city manager's office and Madam Mayor and yourself figuring that path out.
Councilmember Dewar.
Thank you again. I just wanted to continue on. So on the very same document, C1, right after it tells us to pay attention, or us or the staff or the Planning Commission to pay attention to the master plan, it says it has to be compliant with Title 18. And I think that is where the rub comes in. We have a set of policies that in some, are, to use other people's terms, aspirational, or I actually think it's not really aspirational. I think it's our policy of what we want to see. It's the only way we have to talk to developers, unless they come visit with us and say, what do you want here? What do you want here? They read our plan, and we've put it on written paper and electronically so they can see what we're interested in. And if they ignore it, I think they do so at their peril. Like if all they think about is affordable housing, our top priority, and they ignore all the other things that are in the plan, whether it's fire risk, whether it's sustainability, whether it's transportation issues, road issues, then I don't think they're doing us a service. And I don't think those things should just get an automatic pass if they're any kind of housing. That's just my opinion. Where I struggle, we've had a sustainability plan for, I think it's 6 years, and we've not implemented, to my knowledge, one single thing that's in the sustainability plan. And sustainability, a lot of people in our community care about it. They want it to go hand in hand with the development, and they figure every house or factory or warehouse that's built without it is going to be there for 30, 40, 50 or more years and won't have those features built in, whether it's EV parking, you brought that up, whether it's an alternate energy source, whether it's gone beyond our existing tree requirements. Those things are locked in for the life of that building or project. And that's my concern, is that we're way past, talking about this. We've been talking about this since the 70s. It's over 50 years since. It seems like we need to make some actual measurable progress. And I'm going to say one more thing. Given the direction of the federal government, who are de-emphasizing, let's say, environmental issues, and de-emphasizing other issues, and I thought I had some written down as some examples, but I think maybe we have to lean in and get those covered. If those things are being done away with, grants for those things or whatever it is, then we maybe have our work cut out for us. If that's the direction our community wants to go, we're going to have to step it up and even do better, because the federal government may not be there to help us with our priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dewar. Councilmember Ebert, your hand is still up. Did you have another?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
This is, I think everybody's had 2 rounds now, and you guys are good, right? Okay.
Yeah, so listening to everyone's comments, I don't recall anybody saying high-density housing was a negative environmental impact. I think we've all kind of been in support of all types of housing. So just kind of struggling to remember that. But I just want to agree with Councilmember Dewar that it's kind of on us to start pushing forward on these things. And to say that we're not going to, again, just means that we're just saying our master plan doesn't really mean anything, and I think it should. And again, we have it out there for developers to see, and there's a reason why we put it out there, and all this time and energy was put, into it because it was important to us. And the city of Reno is uniquely facing warming in this country, and there's not just because of development coming in that are extreme users of resources, but also because we're dealing with higher than average temperature warming. We're the highest warming city in the country. So I think we should be more aware than every other city in the country. And because this is one of our items in our master plan, we really do need to be saying, hey, you have to do something. And maybe we give a list of several and say, pick one. Like, we're not going to mandate that you have to, or condition that you have to put solar on everything. But maybe we offer a list of things and say, you have to do something to work towards our goal as a city of working towards some kind of sustainability measures. And then that's where it comes to council to be kind of unified on that. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. If we're waiting for people to say, yes, I'm going to, on my own, do this, it's obviously not happening, right? It's not happening. We've had this since 2017. So it's up to us to say this matters. We're the voting body on this. And it's okay to say we're not saying no, but we're going to condition this thing if it's, as long as it's not something illegal, so I think we really need to be honest with ourselves about, do these things matter or not? So I think that's it for now, but thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Your legal counsel.
Yes, thank you. Just for the record, I wanted to make sure, Councilmember Ebert kind of said the phrase, and I just wanted to riff off of that, and what's illegal and not. And I want to just make sure we're all talking apples and oranges. We've got different, we're all looking at the same thing, but there's different ways to slice it. The issue is, in my mind, I want to draw a distinction between legislating, which is one function that the council does. That's when you pass an ordinance. That's when you pass zoning. That's when you pass a law. And then there's what's known as kind of like quasi-judicial decision-making. That's when you, like, for instance, a conditional use permit or a variance comes in front of you. And those are two different types of functions that this body does. And it's important to understand the distinction there, because the master plan plays in different respects in that. Really, the key is the zoning. And I'd just like to get everybody back to the zoning, because that really dictates what uses are appropriate and what uses and what development standards are going to be put on those uses. And that's where the council has legislated and decided that this is what we want to put here. This use is appropriate. This is, if we have an environmental package, we determine that, if you're going to develop this type of use, it has to have a solar component. But you put that in your code. I just don't want that to be confused with when you have a conditional use permit that comes before you. When a conditional use permit comes before you, this body has already said that this use is appropriate here through the zoning. It's already said that. So the function of the body at that point is not to implement the master plan. It's already been implemented in the zoning at that point in time. The function of the body at this point in time is to look at the findings and look at if there are specific things that need to be put in place to mitigate that use. maybe because it's next to a residential, it's an industrial use next to a residential, development. So that's a different analysis. That's not just saying we should, go off down the master plan route. That's basically saying that, this use might generate fumes. So in order to mitigate that, we want to make sure they have an air handling system. That's the level of analysis there. And I make that point because I don't want people to be confused about, like, anytime a project comes before you, we can just cite the master plan and say, we want to see more solar, right? That's not the time and place to do that. The time and the place to do that is when you're doing your development standards. You're saying that this type of use needs to meet these development standards, and that needs to be implemented in code. That's a different exercise, again, than a conditional use permit coming when really all you're trying to do at that point is mitigate specific conditions on that site that might affect the neighbors. That's it. It's not to render policy broadly about data centers. And
Mr. Shipman, we would love to see you on Wednesday nights. Thank you very much.
I just want to clarify.
Hold on just a second. Are you done, Mr. Shipman?
if I'm open for questions,
Okay, I'm going to get through the folks that we have been waiting, and then we can go through another round.
I did still
Madam Mayor.
have 30 seconds, by the way.
Okay, well, we'll get back to you. Councilmember Martinez hasn't even spoke yet, so go ahead.
Thanks so much, Madam Vice Mayor. I appreciate the presentation, Ms. Foos, and thanks so much for jumping in there, Mr. Shipman. I think that's where my mind was at the moment, because the Planning Commission has specific findings that they have to make in order to make their decisions. And for us, you just basically gave us the equivalent while we are debating or looking at specific CUPs or zoning changes. And so I think that helps clarify the stance that we take as a council a little bit more. It helps me understand sort of where those lie and whether we are doing more of the legislative and policy decision making or looking at specific applications or appeals through a quasi-judicial process. And so I just want to thank you for stepping in there and giving us that, because that was basically going to be my question there. And I think for Director Foos, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us how those zoning details or designations are used by staff. Is any of the recommendations or aspirational goals that we have in the Reimagine Reno plan incorporated or baked in through the process when staff is reviewing these applications and appeals? Kind of getting a little granular.
It absolutely does. You know, in everything we do, we go back to, what does this council want? What is your strategic plan? What are your master plan policies? If we had an application come before us that said, I wanted to build an industrial building on a piece of property that was zoned as open space, we would say, whoa, does this fit with the master plan? Does our master plan say we should be putting industrial development on open space land that's reserved for a city park? No. That does not align with the master plan. So that goes into our decision-making on whether we want to recommend approval or denial. Those are the kind of things high level we look at. But again, to Mr. Shipman's point, when a project comes in, let's say it's a car wash, comes in and we say, wow, we had 200 people oppose this car wash in a neighborhood commercial zoning. Well, the zoning says you can have a car wash there. The master plan doesn't talk about car washes. The master plan just says we want a mix of uses in neighborhood commercial. So it is our job as staff to say, how do we mitigate the impacts? And the impacts are going to be noise, hours of operation, bright lights, traffic. It is our job then to address those things through the conditional use permit. That's the level we do. There's nothing in the master plan that says, here's how you deal with car washes, right? That's not what the master plan says. So we have to look at it again. Is it high level? Every project that comes in, we have to say, where does this fit with the master plan? And every project that comes in, we provide master plan goals and policies that align with what that project is. That's always included in our staff report.
Thank you. And just with a couple seconds that I have left, I'll just say that that's sort of the crux where we have to, as elected officials, listen to the impacts to neighboring parcels, depending on what we're looking at, and balance that with the rules and laws that we have in our zoning code. Thank you.
So, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Anderson has not had a chance to go yet, and she has her hand raised. Okay, Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you. Not to oversimplify this, but since I'm the newbie and I'm still learning what the difference between all of the things that we do up here, the way that I've been looking at the master plan is our community's vision board, right? You said you had 6,000 opportunities for the community at large to give feedback on this master plan that was published in 2017, right?
We had about 6,000 people provide input during the different opportunities over 2.5 years.
Okay, so because I don't know what that process was like, when you had those 6,000 pieces of input or opportunities, how did that get boiled down and brought to the city council where we created this public vision board based on that experience?
Yep, we had a consultant that, thank goodness, they were there to kind of stand back as a third party, right? Somebody who was not tied to this community that could say, here's what the community has said. Yes, they want walkability. Yes, they want infill. But understand that every infill project you bring, they're probably going to have issues with. So here's, again, from a master plan level, high level, how we want to grow. We're not dictating that you have to say yes or no to any specific project, but big picture, this is how we want the city to develop. And so through that process, the consultant came back multiple times to council and said, here's the feedback we're getting. And it's so interesting. You know, if you go to Story County, do you think they have the same vision that the city of Reno does? No, they have a very different vision. If you go to most other cities, they have very similar visions. Everybody wants infill. Everybody wants a walkable community. Everybody wants a place that's safe. They want to be able to take their kids to the park. They want to be able to walk to the coffee shop. 99% of us want that. We all are in alignment. Now the question is, how do we do that? And so again, that's what our zoning code dictates.
Okay, thank you. And one of the things that I've been trying to be really careful about, especially when I see conditional use permits and conditional requests, especially I'm going to use sustainability items just as an example because it's been talked about today. My concern with where we are today in 2025 and looking at your presentation and seeing how our average home cost has risen so dramatically is weighing the benefits between forcing aspirational sustainability ideas and technology on homes that potentially the person buying that home has zero interest or need in. That's the first. Second is the equipment and technology during the time that is being required or requested to be conditional on building that project is slowing it down and making it more expensive to the person that is trying to buy that home. And so we need to be really careful in terms of our vision board about aspirations and how they actually get executed in the community. Because as you said, how many 9,000 homes that have been approved? They've never even broken ground yet. So that's just something that I think we need to be really careful with moving forward.
Thank you, Councilmember Anderson. So I believe Councilmember Ebert has 30 seconds left on her second round, so we'll go to her, and then we'll start a 30-second round for, it looks like, Councilmember Reese and Councilmember Dewar. So Councilmember Ebert, you have 30 seconds with your second round.
Thank you. So I just wanted to clarify, I don't think it was clear on that. I was speaking about putting those conditions into the code, which I thought we were talking about today with updating the code and things like that. That's been the process that we're going through. So thank you for clarifying that. But just wanted to let everybody know that that's the process I was talking about going through. So thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Councilmember Reese, you have 30 seconds, and we'll hope to move this forward. Thank you.
So much. My comments were for the city attorney's office. I really appreciated, Mr. Shipman, your comments today, in part because when we are in this forum, we don't always have the opportunity to be thinking on the fly about the same things that your legal brain is trained to do. And I know Ms. Vice Mayor Taylor said, well, come on Wednesday night, and she was being tongue-in-cheek, but really, we need your help. So when we are headed down the wrong path about a thing which we are so passionate about, just snap us back to reality, make sure we're in the same place.
Thank you, Councilmember Reese. Councilmember Dewar?
Yeah, and I think we have 1 minute on the third round per our council rules, but I'll try to make it less. Number one, I wanted to address Jonathan as well, if you could sit back. You said if they have zoning, then it's just mitigating these issues. But usually when something comes to us, they're wanting to change their zoning, change the zoning. If they already have the zoning, they're usually going straight to building permit unless there's another issue. So in changing their zoning or doing a PUD, that's where we're involved. And that's why the master plan, to me, is important. And lastly, it was made a comment, I think by Ms. Foos, that big lawsuits have been lost, but I don't want to be scared about that because I'm very proud of our attorney's office. We have won big lawsuits on our decision-making, whether it's about annexing in or a particular project where we've set conditions. So I don't want the council to somehow be afraid of standing our ground and doing what we think is the right thing. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dewar. Okay, I believe this item is for discussion only, so we will move on, Madam Clerk, to item D2, Madam Mayor, sorry, C1.
Well,
No.
do you need anything more from us? I mean, did they, okay.
No, okay. Madam Clerk, we're going to head into C1. Do you have any public comment on this item?
Madam Mayor, I do not have any public comment if you'd like to open the public hearing.
All right, thank you. At this time, we'll open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, have you given proper notice and any correspondence received and any correspondence received?
Proper notice was given and no correspondence was received.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, what do we need?
So this is an ordinance introduction. Item C1, Bill number 7294, case number LDC 25-00024, 900 Western Road zoning map amendment, ordinance to amend Title 18, Chapter 18.02 of the Reno Municipal Code entitled Zoning, rezoning a plus or minus 0.83 acre site from single-family residential, 3 units per acre, SF3, to single-family residential, 8 units per acre, SF8. The site is located on the northeast corner of the intersection of Omaha Street and Western Road, Ward 4.
Okay, thank you so much. Sending it to Ward 4.
Can we get a presentation on this? Thank you.
Absolutely. What are we, afternoon yet? Good afternoon, good morning, I'm not sure yet. Jeff Foster, Associate Planner for the record, bringing you a zoning map amendment along the lines of what you were just talking about for 900 Western Road, and that is case LDC 25-24.
But just to make sure, they want to change the zoning.
Correct.
Got it.
All right, so this is a 0.83 acre site located on the northeast corner of the intersection of Omaha and Western Road near US 395, as you can see on the screen. It is currently developed with a single-family home that was built in 1940. The existing structure is about 712 square feet and is connected to city water and private septic. The request before you is a zoning map amendment from SF3, 3 units per acre, to single-family 8 units per acre, and no uses or buildings are currently proposed. So as we zoom in here, you can see that the surrounding land uses are single-family to the north, west, and east, and to the south you have some vacant lots as well as a single-family residence. The key issues that staff analyzed are zoning compatibility and master plan conformance. So again, the current zoning is single-family residential, 3 units per acre, as you can see on the left side of the screen. The SF3 zone does conform to the master plan designation. The applicant is requesting a zone change to single-family residential 8 units per acre. And that many properties within the vicinity of the subject site are zoned SF8, as you can see on the screen. Most notably, the Panther Valley Estates subdivision located due north. The proposed change to SF8 would allow for the same developable area shared by many of the surrounding properties without compromising master plan conformance. Given the surrounding uses and SF8 zoning, the proposed zoning map amendment to SF8 is consistent and compatible with the surrounding zoning and development. I did want to point out that the SF3 and SF8 zones are almost the same in terms of their allowed land uses. The only difference is that SF8 allows duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes, as well as multifamily with a conditional use permit. The underlying master plan land use designation is single-family neighborhood, as you can see on the screen, and here are a few policies from the master plan that are in support of the proposed request. Moving on to development standards, on the screen you can see the current SF3 and the proposed SF8, the development standards for each of those zones. I would like to call your attention to the setbacks and the lot size, which is where you will find this differences. In essence, with the proposed SF8 zone, the setbacks are substantially reduced and the lot size, minimum lot size, is also substantially reduced. Here are the recommended findings for a zoning map amendment. Staff can make all recommended findings. And here's the recommended motion, and I'm available for questions. I will note that the applicant is here, the applicant's representative is here, will not be making a presentation, but is available for questions.
Thank you. Do we have any information about what's currently there on these parcels?
On the parcel that's the subject of the zone change request? Yes, so let me go back to this screen here. You can't really see it underneath that yellow, but maybe a little bit. You can see it's it's developed with a single-family home that was built in 1940. It's about 712 square feet. And that home may or may not be removed with the subsequent development of the parcel.
Okay, and we don't have any plans yet. We're just discussing zoning today.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And have they made any statements about saving any of the existing trees or anything like that? I've happened to visit the site and there's a lot of really great mature trees there. Is that included in any of these discussions?
So the way I can chime in on that is that at the December NAB meeting, that issue was addressed as well in terms of the desire for trees not to be removed or to the extent possible. Again, because we don't have a development plan yet to analyze, we don't yet know. I would submit, however, if they are trying to maximize the number of lots that they would be able to subdivide that parcel into and build homes on under the guise of affordable housing, probably many of those trees would unfortunately need to be removed.
Okay, and can you show us the parcel map again? Does the changes, do the changes go through the existing structure? Like, we're pretty sure they're gonna tear the structure down, or do we know yet?
Ryan Sims, the applicant's representative, is here. He may be able to speak to
Great.
that more.
Right.
Ryan, did you want to?
Good afternoon. For the record, Ryan Sims, Axion Engineering on behalf of the applicant. Currently at this time, like Jeff mentioned, there is no plan for development. However, I think I can say on the record that the owner is leaning toward exploring keeping the structure, hooking up to city sewer, and then exploring how to develop the rest of the property. Okay. So I think that's the extent of, where we are today with the development plan.
Okay, and I know that, I'm not sure if it was you, but a representative came to my NAB. Has there been any outreach to the surrounding neighbors?
Apart from the public hearings, no, but we did state at the NAB that with any subsequent development plan, whether that's a tentative map for a subdivision or even a parcel map, that we would reach out to the neighbors and allow them to provide some input. So
Okay.
see what their concerns are.
All right, I have like maybe one or two more questions.
Okay, I don't see any other council members' hands raised.
Okay, so Can you tell me what would be it might be a question for staff. Could you tell me what the maximum number of units could be for this location?
So based on the parcel size and the minimum lot size, so you can see, again, the minimum lot size is shown in the lower right-hand corner, 6,000 square feet for the interior lots. Given the lot size, if they were to remove the existing home, the maximum, I think, is 6 parcels, right? If they were to leave the existing home and needing to maintain all of the required setbacks and achieve that minimum lot size, I think you're looking at maybe 3 to 4.
Okay.
But again, Ryan would, or whoever would be analyzing that further would try and maximize that, I would think.
Okay, and 35 feet max height, how many stories is that?
So generally 3 stories. Yeah.
Okay, so it could be up to 3 stories.
Yep.
So-
Again, just to point out, so on the screen on the right there, you can see the proposed SF8 zone. If you look at all of the parcels to the north of that, those are also all SF8.
Yeah.
As well as the parcels to the south. So it's basically surrounded by SF8 zoning.
Could this potentially be 3 stories, 3 apartments per structure? I mean, 6 parcels, 3 apartments per parcel.
So traditionally, if you were doing a multifamily development with apartments, you wouldn't parcel it off.
Well, okay, so
But
3 units per 6, parcels.
So the zone, if it was zoned, if it goes to SF8, and if it was proposed to be developed with multifamily use, it wouldn't be required to go through a conditional use permit process. I don't happen to know the exact equivalent number of units that would be allowed with an apartment complex.
Okay, so we don't know if it could be.
No, but
one
again,
per
the applicant's general stated intent is to develop single-family homes.
Okay, so I'm fine with this. I support housing. We desperately need it. I was just curious about what would be the maximum impact to the community, and I'm happy to see residential going into this area that is residential. There's been instances in Panther Valley in particular where I've seen this council change zoning in residential to industrial commercial. So I'm happy to see housing go in here. So, and I've met with the property owner. He expressed to me that he wasn't sure yet if he was going to save the existing structure or not. But I'm hopeful that we can save some of the trees. So.
Just to add one thing, you can see that the current SF3 also allows 35 feet, so that actually doesn't change.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's great to know.
Thank you, Councilmember Reese.
Thank you. And I suppose, Mr. Foster, let me first seek some information from our legal counsel. So, Mr. Shipman, here we arrive at the first post Ms. Fu's presentation, and the question is about an upzone for this parcel. What are the parameters of the legal limits of our authority? So I suppose I'm asking because I heard questions about like what is going to be built there, what about the trees, all of which I'm not sure relate to a zoning question. And so I'm trying to figure out, normally I might have expected you might jump in and say, hey, you're not supposed to ask about that, but you didn't. So I'm just trying to figure out how do we chart a path forward so that we're all on the same page legally?
So with a zoning, when you're doing a zoning amendment or you're putting zoning on a property, it's a legislative act, right? So from a council standpoint is you pretty much have free reign. We've talked about in the code, and Jeff did a good job of describing it and relating it back to the master plan and showing, for instance, that the zoning that's being proposed is actually mirrors the zoning that's all around it. And that's consistent with the master plan. And that's when the master plan would come in to help guide your decision-making. It's kind of difficult. When you're doing a zoning potentially will approve a whole raft of uses, right? And all sorts of different projects, as you heard Mr. Foster talk about. I mean, it could be multifamily, it could be a single family, it could be 4 lots, it could be 8 lots. And as the governing body, that's something that's important for you guys to know and appreciate without dwelling necessarily at this level on the exact project that's going to be created, because you don't know what's going to be created there. What you are doing here today is really basically saying, I'm okay with this envelope that I'm putting on this property, this zoning envelope that's going to put the maximum amount of development on that property, and I'm okay with all those uses. And again, because it's zoning, you have broad discretion to do that. I think it's difficult with the public because the public's coming and they've got a view of what potentially is going to be on that piece of property, and so they're always criticizing a project. They're not criticizing the development standards. But
Well,
which,
and Mr.
yeah,
Shipman, for
yeah.
my part, when I look at the map and I see it going from SF3 to SF8, and I look at all the adjacent parcels being SF8, I say to myself, it matches what we have set up there, right? And so my inquiry thus ends. I don't necessarily then ask those questions about what would be built there in the future, if ever. I don't say what would be the trees, because my understanding is I'm legally constrained to the zoning question.
You are, but because it's a legislative act, you have a little, you're not, I just hesitate because the master plan is not dictating your decision at this point in time.
Gotcha.
And I just don't want to create the impression that you and this body is bound by that, because you have the ability and you have the discretion to legislate. That document maybe will inform your decision one way or another. It may not have the same impact on another member of the body. And you might come up with a collective decision that says, no, I'm not comfortable changing this because for whatever reason. At this point in time, you have the ability to do that. Where it becomes a little more difficult and problematic is at the next level when a project is there and that has the zoning. And then, as we talked about in the prior, when we've already decided, like here today, that there could be, in this case, an apartment complex there. We don't know what it would look like. It would have to meet the zoning code. But at that point, when that project comes in front of you, you're looking at that project more from a quasi-judicial standpoint, saying, you're not legislating, you're just saying they meet all the standards, but there's some things that might potentially cause problems for their neighbors, and you have the ability and the authority under the code and under the law to mitigate those types of property-specific, project-specific conditions. You don't have at that point in time the ability to legislate more of the master plan or to bring, I want to see just solar on this project, or I want to see EV chargers on this project. No. That's a different discussion. That's to Councilmember Ebert's point. You have to have that codified into the law as a development standard. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knows, and thank you for the question. That's where we are in the process, and it's legislative, and it's up for the council to decide that all the potential uses that go on that property, you're comfortable with those.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that answer.
Okay, Councilmember Ebert, I think we're looking for a motion.
I did have my hand raised for another comment. I just wanted to clarify that was my intent was, I think it's important when we discuss zone changes to talk about what are the most extreme uses of the change. That should be one of the factors that we discuss before we make a decision on it. And, I expressed that I have an interest in trees. I think I've made it pretty clear over my time on council, but certainly I didn't condition, this zoning change on them agreeing to save trees. I just expressed an interest in that. But just to reiterate, I think that it's very important that we talk about those highest use impacts before we make changes, because yes, it would be single family 8, which the other areas are, but it's still a change from what it is now in residential. So just to clarify, I just want to talk about what these residents could potentially have be built next to them. That should be something that we should all be discussing before we agree to a zone change. So just wanted to clarify that. So thank you.
May I?
Yeah.
So when we typically bring zone changes before you, oftentimes there's a slide that shows the other types of land uses that would be allowed in the zone, either by right or with some kind of a conditional use permit or minor conditional use permit, things like that. I didn't have that in this slide because SF3 and, sorry, in this presentation, because SF3 and SF8 are so similar. There's essentially nothing I could show you, but I did verbalize that effectively the only difference between SF3 and SF8 is that SF8 with a conditional use permit would allow duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, and multifamily.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, it's not like they're gonna be able to build a commercial,
Yeah.
building or something
Yeah.
along those lines.
And the conditional use permit process, again, can you explain that real quick?
So a conditional use permit process, if the applicant were to desire to build any of those 4 uses, they would need to submit an application with an actual site plan, elevations, building heights, all of the above. And that would go through a review process at staff level. It would then go to the planning commission, and the planning commission would render a decision on the use. Again, as Mr. Shipman has pointed out, effectively the use is allowed with a conditional use permit, and at that point, the planning commission would be deciding on whether or not staff's recommendations for how to mitigate the identified impacts are sufficient to mitigate those impacts.
Okay, thank you for that.
Do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously, and I understand we want to take a lunch break for 30 minutes now. Council's in recess. No, wait, sorry.
Here's one of the things. So I was thinking we should take one like at 1:30 and then be back by 2.
Okay.
Because we do have a judge coming in, so I think we can get through.
I misunderstood this. No, I misunderstood. Sorry.
Are you okay with that?
Does it matter, really,
Okay.
though, whether we eat now or later? I've already eaten, so it's not, doesn't
Okay,
affect
good.
me.
All right, well, let's keep going.
Okay, then we're on item F1, is that correct?
All
That is
right, Madam
correct.
Clerk, we are on item F1. Ordinance adoptions.
Item F1, ordinance adoption, ordinance number 6700, case number LDC 25-00010, Security Circle Yard Zoning Map Amendment, ordinance to amend Title 18, Chapter 18.02 of the Reno Municipal Code entitled Zoning, Rezoning a plus or minus 2.2 acre site from mixed-use suburban MS to mixed employment ME. The site is comprised of 2 parcels located on the northeast corner of the intersection of North Virginia Street and Security Circle. The site has a master plan land use designation of mixed employment ME, Ward 4.
All right, thank you. Ward 4, can I get a motion?
Oh, Madam Mayor, before we do that, I just want to say that we did receive 2 letters of concern that has been distributed to the Reno City Council.
Okay, thank you so much. Councilwoman.
Is this a second reading of this one?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I'll make a motion to adopt.
Okay. I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, item F2. Carl, go ahead.
Thank you,
Take it
Madam
away.
Mayor. Ordinance adoption, ordinance number 6701, case number LDC 25-00019, Orcrest Drive zoning map amendment, ordinance to amend Title 18, Chapter 18.02 of the Reno Municipal Code entitled Zoning, Rezoning or plus or minus 1.18 acre site from large lot residential, 1 acre, LLR-1 to mixed employment, ME. The site is comprised of 1 parcel located on the north side of Orcrest Drive, approximately 240 feet east of the intersection with Carson Lane, 475 Orcrest Drive. The site has a master plan land use designation of mixed employment, ME, Ward 4.
All right, thank you so much, Carl. Okay, Councilwoman Ebert.
This is also a second reading, correct?
Yes.
All right. Move to adopt.
A motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, item F3.
Ordinance adoption, ordinance number 6702, case number LDC 25-00015, Reno Housing Authority at Carville Master Plan and Zoning Map Amendment, ordinance to amend Title 18, Chapter 18.02 of the Reno Municipal Code entitled Zoning, rezoning a plus or minus 0.75 acre site composed of 4 parcels located on the northeast corner of Sutro Street and Carville Drive, extending plus or minus 250 feet east along the north side of Carville Drive, south of Hillborough Avenue for multifamily residential 14 units per acre, MF14, to multifamily residential 30 units per acre, MF30, together with matters which pertain to or are necessarily connected therewith, Ward 1.
Move to adopt.
Second.
All right, thank you. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Sending it back to you, Madam Clerk.
On item G1, which is an appointment to the Reno City Planning Commission. This is a recommendation by the city manager.
Okay, and this is Ward 6.
This is Ward 6.
Okay, so I'm going to send it over to Councilwoman Anderson.
Yes, I'd like to appoint David Jacoman to the Planning Commission, please.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item G2, and this is going to go to civil service, so I'm going to send it down to Councilwoman Ebert.
We were gonna, not that one.
So you want to hold?
Okay, then let me, do you wanna do it after lunch break?
We'll just, you want a minute to look at it?
Yeah, we were
Yeah,
gonna connect
I'll come
on it
back
real
to you.
quick.
Okay.
Well, I mean, after,
Oh, okay. If you want to.
that's,
Okay. All right. Item G3. This is Arts and Culture Commission. Who is the liaison? Oh, go ahead, Councilwoman Anderson.
All right. It looks like for our architect appointment, we would like to appoint Douglas Prouty, please, and Noemi Velasco. And I apologize if I mispronounced any of their names.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right, item G4 this is the Youth City Council. Is this Councilman Martinez?
Yeah, thanks so much,
Go ahead.
Madam Mayor. For the Youth City Council, we would like to appoint, and excuse me if I mispronounce this, but Yazini Arun Prakash to the Youth City Council.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right. Okay, this is item, am I correct, Madam Clerk, G5? And this is for Ward 2 Neighborhood Advisory Board. That would be Councilwoman Dewar?
Yeah, thank you. First, for the Ward 2 alternates, I'd like to appoint Pat Cashel and Michael Greensburg. And then for the other 2 positions, Sean McCoy and Kristen Montan.
Okay, so I have a motion from Councilwoman Dewar. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we're going to head into Ward 3 Neighborhood Advisory Board. I'm going to send it over to you, Councilman Martinez.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. For Ward 3 Neighborhood Advisory Board, I'd like to appoint Sarah Horseman.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're going to head on over to item G7. That would be Ward 6. Councilwoman Anderson for your Neighborhood Advisory Board.
Okay, we've been conducting interviews, and we still have some more to conduct, but the 4 people that I'd like to initially appoint are Michelangelo Aranda, Bradford Conway, Tyler Hinman, and Kimberly Rossiter.
Okay, so I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Madam Mayor, I just want to share, I didn't see Kimberly Rossiter on our list. Is she? Maybe not on my list. Maybe I have an old agenda. Okay. If she's on the agenda, that's totally cool. I just wasn't on my agenda, I was worried. Yeah.
Okay, she's on all of ours.
Okay.
Okay, all right, I forgot where we're at.
We're just
I have a
voting, I was
motion and a
voting yes.
second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. I believe we are heading over, Madam Clerk, are we heading over to the redevelopment? What are we doing? Yes. Okay. So, with that being said, let's now open the redevelopment agency. That would be item A2, roll call.
Vice Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Dorr?
Here.
Martinez?
Here.
Ebert?
Present.
Reese? Here. Anderson?
Here.
Shivi?
Here.
Madam Mayor, you do have a quorum of the Redevelopment Agency Board for Wednesday, February 12th.
Okay, thank you so much. At this time, I'm going to ask, do you have any public comments?
We do not have any public comment registered and have not received any correspondence.
Okay, thank you very much. I am going to ask you for approval of the agenda. That's item A4. I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Do we need to open the public hearing, Madam Clerk?
We do for
Okay.
items, I'm sorry, it's a department item. It's just item C1.
Okay. So we will now open the public hearing?
It's not a
Correct?
public
It's
hearing.
not?
Nope.
Okay. And underneath, item D, correct? Okay. All right, thank you. So at this time, we are the Redevelopment Agency Advisory Board. Can we get a presentation on this? It's a newly formed edition.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ashley Turney, Assistant City Manager for the record. For this board, what's in front of you today is the appointment of the Redevelopment Agency Advisory Board. This is a re-energized board, is what we are calling it. This will be the first appointment. This board has been dormant for a number of years. I believe their last meeting was in 2017. There are a potential of 9 positions available to be appointed today for various areas of expertise. We would be looking for appointment today. As you may recall, this item was continued from your January 22nd meeting. This body's direction to redevelopment agency staff before was that this board would be reviewing many aspects of the RDA before it comes before you. We have delayed some projects, and so we are looking for the appointments today in order to prevent further delays.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know, the time frame, and then also, can you talk a little bit about exactly the items that they look at, like, I was just curious, like, let's say.
Purpose and oversight?
Yeah, I guess one of the things, like, what about downtown public safety and policing and some of that stuff? Is that in their scope?
So, Madam Mayor, that would not be the oversight of this board. So the board for the Redevelopment Agency Advisory Board is very much looking at this from fiscal components that will be coming forward to this body for approval. That will be reviewing the capital improvement projects list that will come forward to this body to be approved on an annual basis that are found in RDA 1 and RDA 2. Additionally, they will be reviewing redevelopment applications, TIF applications, restore approved grants that will come forward, all in accordance with what this body adopted in August of the redevelopment agency program that was re-energized. So this body is very much akin to something that would be a financial advisory board review.
Okay.
It's a higher level. They're not looking at conditions on the ground as it relates to policing in those areas.
Okay. Okay, so, let's see. First of all, I want to say, I looked at all the applications. It was impressive. And then it's also so hard because we have only so many seats.
Correct.
I really encourage everyone on this list. I mean, it was fantastic. Some of, like, the best that I have seen when it comes to talent. But I would just encourage them to serve on other boards and other opportunities. So really, if you can make sure you let them know about what we have, openings, whether it's on FAB or neighborhood advisory boards, it would be really beneficial. I wanted to really kind of look at a broad base of expertise. So I kind of, it was so hard. It was so hard. I wish we had availability for every single person on here. So with that being said, I looked at, anyone with law experience, to artists, to residents, to small business owners. I really just felt like it needed a broad base. I was hoping that we had more time. That's why I asked you about the timing of this.
So, Madam Mayor, just to, again, this item was continued already at this point. We are 3 weeks from the last council meeting. I will tell you that we do have one project that is pending that this body has asked that the Redevelopment Agency Advisory Board review. Additionally, we have now received 5 or 6 other TIF applications that we cannot move forward with that process without the advisory board based off previous direction from this body. So I would respectfully request that we make some appointments today to at least get us to a quorum, so we can continue to move this process forward in order to help these redevelopment and blighted areas.
Okay, well, I'm excited for any opportunity downtown and beyond, so thank you. So I put a list together here. So let's see. Okay, so Madam Clerk, I would like to appoint Taylor Adams, Kara Harris, Jay Kenny, Paul Klein, Nettie Oliverio, Michael Pani, Colin Robertson, Kurt Stitzer, Mike Van Houten. And then I want to put 2 alternates because there are a couple of them that said they don't know if they have the time to dedicate to this board, and that would be,
Madam Mayor, if I could pause in
Yes.
between your motion. The way that the bylaws are currently written, we do not allow alternates. If that's something that the body would like, we can bring that back at a future date.
I would love for you to bring it back because we have a lot of boards where attendance is really low or they don't have time to serve. So if we could add that to bring back to another meeting. But for now, those are my appointments. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed. Thank you.
Motion carries. All right.
This is where we are. Do you want me to push this to another day?
If,
Or do you want
Do you
to have
wanna-
everybody come back at 2?
what
I'm
time is
afraid
it?
council's going to be furious.
I tried to get them. Yeah, whatever you want to do.
So that's fine.
Okay.
We'll push it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then where are we at? Let's see. Madam Clerk, I'm going to send it back to you.
Item F1 is Redevelopment Agency Board comments, if there are any.
Any comments? All right.
Okay, we have closing public comment on the Redevelopment Agency Board is item H1. I have none registered and have not received any correspondence, so we're on item I, adjournment of the Redevelopment Agency Board.
Okay, give me a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Madam Clerk, what else do you need?
We can do item H1 on the Reno City Council meeting if you'd like, and then that way we only have one item left when we come back from lunch. So item H1, City Council comments.
All right.
Madam Mayor, I have comments.
Yes, please.
I wanted to let everyone know that Councilmember Donald Abbott from the city in Sparks and I are engaged in a pitched battle to shave our heads for the Northern Nevada Children's Cancer Foundation. So for the next several weeks, we will be trying to raise money for NNCCF, and you'll be seeing me with a lot less hair very soon because whether we win or lose, we're both going under the shaver. But it's a great opportunity for us to not only raise some money for children's cancer, but also just to knit our employees and our respective cities together in the goal of raising money for Children's Cancer Foundation here locally.
I love that. That's awesome. Go ahead, Councilwoman
Okay. I just wanted to talk about our joint meeting last week and how well it went. And if people haven't watched it online or don't know about it, they should check it out. I think it was extremely productive. And I'm really looking forward to what evolves in that situation. And also, I'd like to request possibly maybe from the city manager, Manager Bryant, if we could
My apologies. Go ahead.
Yeah, if maybe we could do some council workshops to talk more amongst ourselves about how we would like the kind of combination of services to work across Sparks, Reno, and Washoe County. I know this is going to be an ongoing process, so I think maybe we should all kind of be on the same page before we go to any future joint meetings. I know the direction given to the collective staffs last week was just to get us all on the same dispatch system, but there might be future items that come up. So if we could maybe add a workshop for that to one of our upcoming agendas, I think that would be helpful, and have maybe subject matter experts from how things used to be to come in and give us information about what went wrong last time so we can avoid some of the previous mistakes would be helpful too.
So thank you, Jackie Bryant, for the record. I want to make sure I understand the request. It pertains, one, to fire regionalization, and you're asking for a workshop which would be less than the body, or because if it is the body, it needs to be publicly available,
Yes,
open
I'm
meeting
saying
law?
that, I don't know if that's something that we could do during a council meeting, to have that be an agendized item, or have a special city council meeting where we talk about it together before we go to an additional joint meeting with Washoe County and Sparks.
I understand the direction. Yes, I'll work with the city attorney's office to make sure that we do that compliant with the open meeting law.
Great. And then one last thing, just want to remind everybody about the senior cooking classes at the Reno Elks Lodge. They're next Wednesday, 11 to 2. They're free. It's a really great social activity for seniors. It's an instructional cooking class. It's interactive with the chefs. When the classes are over, everyone gets a copy of the receipts, and we all try the food they cooked, so you know if you like it before you buy any ingredients or spend time cooking it, and socialize. So please come if you're able, and everyone on council is always invited. Thank you.
All right, Councilwoman Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was going to talk about this under G1, but I think it might be more appropriate to do it here. So the role of the Planning Commission is to make review by City Council easier, not harder. In recent deliberations by the Planning Commission, I believe they have fallen woefully short by the standards expected of the City Council, myself in particular. I would look to our city attorneys and city manager, hopefully, to improve the deliberation and decision-making process of the Planning Commission. We expect a clean record and clear record to review any appeals and to take actions in matters reviewed by the Planning Commission. And I believe that the applicants, the stakeholders, and the citizens deserve better. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. All right, anything else? No? Go ahead, Councilman.
Thanks so much, Madam Mayor. Just two quick announcements. The first one is thanking Councilmember Reese for sponsoring the Love and Full Splash Valentine's Day pool party this Saturday at 3 p.m. at the Northwest Pool. So if anybody can join us, we'll definitely be there celebrating that. And then the last thing is to remind folks that we received a Love Your Block grant from the feds, so we have the opportunity to help folks in our communities with small home repairs, community cleanups, neighborhood improvements, public art, and more. And those applications should be opening on the 14th, so look at the City of Reno website for more information.
Okay, and how much did you get?
The mini grants can range, it looks like anywhere from $500 to $3,000 per applicant.
That's incredible.
How do they find it on the website? Like, what should they search for?
It's reno.gov/housing.
Okay,
It will
great.
be under
So
the
under
housing,
housing.
yeah, housing and
Perfect.
neighborhood development.
Thank you.
Is that just in specific word?
It looks like this time it is. It will be in Ward 3 in particular. Yeah.
Okay, because we had that in Ward 3 a few years ago, too. So thank you.
Yeah, of course.
That's exciting.
Just want to highlight it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Love that. Let me just ask you one more thing, Miguel. Are you doing anything to promote it publicly? Is there anything, like, are you doing any social media or knocking on doors or anything?
Yeah, there's already a round of social media going now, but tomorrow we will also host a media opportunity at 10 a.m. at the Neal Road Recreation Center where folks can get more information.
Okay, that's awesome. How many grants can you give out? Do you know?
I don't know offhand, but maybe we can get that information from hand.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Madam Clerk, anything else?
Madam Mayor, we're going to go on break until our 2 p.m.
I don't think, okay, hold on. We have
Do
an
you want to
update
go on a
here.
break, or do you want to call it good?
I
We
think,
can call it good.
I think we are actually, our 2 p.m. Is going to be on another agenda. So if the council doesn't mind, I think at this time we will adjourn the meeting, and then I won't keep you any longer, okay? So I'd like a motion to adjourn. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Thanks, everyone. Good meeting.
Do we have any public comment, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. I was
Thanks.
just saying we didn't do public
Carl.
comment. For item J1, we do not have any public comment registered, and we also have not received any additional correspondence that wasn't already noted.
Okay, thank you, Carl. Appreciate it. We just jumped the gun on that. We were so excited that we were going into adjournment. All right, thanks so much.